pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll with planet. Flight downside FP off.
Yikes. You bet. Okay. We don't need any more of these.
All right, folks, you know the drill. Let us know if you can hear us and see what's going on. What a problem to have. I don't know what the overlay is going to do today. It needs to change to something else because that's not the right countdown for this rocket. We've got a United Launch Alliance Delta IV Heavy taking a National Reconnaissance Office payload and a Starship static fire that all seem to be happening at the same time here. John Galloway for NASASpaceflight, let me know that you can hear me. We are going to be jumping back and forth between cameras because we are now 17 minutes or something like that away from this launch, 16, 15 something. 13, I don't know. And also, there's activity out at Boca Chica. The pad has just cleared, and the last vehicle's cleared the pad. So we're going to be trying to keep up with what's going on both of these in a very rare rocket doubleheader. I'll get the overlay fixed in a second. Let's introduce the other NASA spaceflight folks who are joining us here for the stream. Up at the top of the list, Chris Bergen. Do I got you on the line?
Good evening.
Good evening to you, sir. You ready to do this?
Oh, yes.
All right, Chris Bergen's the assistant, nothing. Chris Bergen is
been demoted.
the guy. He's the guy. He's the man out there. Chris, thank you for joining us. Also, we have Ian Atkinson as well. Ian, we got you on the line?
Yes, sir. Hello, everyone. How's it going?
All right, y'all, let us know. Can you hear Chris? Can you hear Ian there? And then last but not least, Thomas Berghardt. Thomas, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How's it going, everybody?
Well, I'm hanging in there, but I got to go fix the overlay.
Yeah,
I don't think that
go wrangle some robots or something. We got you.
the overlay is what I'm going to do.
And the overlay, yeah.
What a problem to have. United Launch Alliance is showing us these Delta IV views. We also have live views of Starship out at Boca Chica. Somebody tell me what's going on here. I don't know. Pick a mission and talk about it, and I'll show pictures.
I got you. I'll give us a brief overview. What you're looking at right now is Starship SN15. Actually, 1.5 starships, because they've also got that nose cone test article thing. If Starhopper was in the shot, we'd say we have 2 full starships. But anyway, Starship SN15, we do believe that the pad just cleared once again. It was actually cleared briefly earlier, but then personnel went back to the pad. So they're still working on some pre-testing preparations, it looks like. But I believe the pad has been cleared again. And therefore, SpaceX getting into a static fire stance today. Again, they need a Starship SN15 static fire to pave the way to a flight later this week. So, as always, we are going to keep a very close eye on that. No fueling underway yet. Again, they literally just cleared the pad, but we'll keep an eye on it. And that's in Boca Chica, Texas. And then on the west coast of the United States at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California, United Launch Alliance is currently fueled and preparing to launch a Delta IV Heavy rocket carrying a classified payload for the National Reconnaissance Office. That mission is NROL-82 and is actually carrying a KH-11 reconnaissance satellite to low Earth orbit. Going into a polar orbit. That's why they're launching from Vandenberg. That's ULA's first launch of the year, and currently all items are green for that launch. No technical items being worked, and also weather is observed go, which is great because weather was only forecasted to be something like 40% chance of being favorable, so they've lucked out on that so far. Again, we're just under 10 minutes away from that launch time. So we are going to be watching that as well. Two rockets in 2 different parts of the U.S., and we're going to be watching them both as they both do different things. One's going to launch, one's going to static fire, assuming that everything goes well. So that's our current situation. We do have Jack Beyer out in California at a viewing site for the Vandenberg launch. Unfortunately, the viewing site for the media in Vandenberg does not have a great view of the launch site, so we're going to be... I hedged a little bit. Does not really have any view of the launch pad. So we're going to be using his camera once it arises above the pad, hopefully. We're getting him set up there. We have the official ULA feeds to pipe in as well. But of course, we also have the Robot Army and Mary all down in Boca Chica. So we've got no shortage of camera views down for Starship. Speaking of Mary, there's our feed. So yeah, so we're going to be bouncing through all these different cameras, and whenever there's something that you guys are going to want to see, we'll be showing it on the stream here. Our overlay is currently configured to show all these Starship status. Like we said, pad is cleared. and we're going to be standing by for some recondenser and tank farm activity to see that testing is in fact spooling up. And we are going to continue to give you some updates on that Delta IV Heavy launch. They're currently in a pre-planned hold, and they're just under 10 minutes away from their targeted liftoff, which is at 1:47 p.m. Pacific time. Again, that's just under 9 minutes away now. As always, with the NASA Spaceflight streams, we will like to answer questions, so if you've got questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, and if you tag us with @NASASpaceflight, that'll help us see them, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can before the launch and after the launch, and while we wait for Starship to do stuff as well. So that's pretty standard. We've got myself, Crispy, Ian, and Das all on comms to do those kind of things. So yeah, thank you all for joining us for the double rocket or rocket doubleheader. Want to dive into some questions while we stand by for things to kick off here?
How you like that for the overlay?
Nice. I like it. I like it.
I don't know. I took all
What
the
heck is
timers
a
and everything
div H? I
off.
don't know. It's a Delta IV Heavy. I get it. But
I'm doing what I can here.
limited screen real estate to work with. We'll just put it across the entire screen.
So yes,
yeah.
Can I just bring up my usual shuttle reference?
Oh, of
Because
course, of course.
there is a synergy here, and I literally just clicked into my brain that we're looking right now at Starship, which is what Shuttle always hoped it wanted to be. But also that pad, SLC-6 at Vandenberg, was going to be the Polar Launch West Coast launch site for Shuttle. It's going to be the new home of Shuttle Discovery, and Challenger went out there for fit checks, but Enterprise went out there for fit checks, but when Challenger was lost, they cancelled the plans. So there is a shuttle synergy between the two streams we're covering right now.
Absolutely.
And it looks like now they're going through their go no go poll. You can see on the screen you have the two boxes there, and you'll see as they go through the systems, you'll see the box go green or go red if there's an issue, or they'll skip them if they request more time.
And Das, can we actually pipe in that audio for the poll specifically? I know they won't be talking over it.
Sure. Let's see what we can do real quick.
This is something I wish SpaceX launches did, but they do. All theirs are computerized and automated, so we don't hear it.
LH2. Go. Second station. Box. Go. LH2.
Go.
Electrical systems. Airborne.
Go.
Ground.
The key
Go.
watch item here
Facility.
is weather.
Go.
That's what was the main concern.
RFFTS. Go.
Tory
Flight
Bruder
control.
tweeted
Go.
that the
Com.
flight loop was quiet,
Go.
which is good,
GCQ.
but he was all in the
Go.
weather, and he was currently
Operation
green
support.
last check.
Go.
So let's see how it comes up on this polling.
Pneumatics. Go. Umbilicals. Go. HAZGAS. Go. ECS. Go. Red line monitor. Go. Quality. Go. Op safety manager. Go. ULA safety. Go. Vehicle system engineer. Go. Anomaly chief. Go. Range coordinator. Cleared to proceed. Launch director.
Launch vehicle is ready to launch.
Mission director.
You have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count.
And with
Oh,
that,
minus
all
6
stations
minutes.
have confirmed
ALC.
go for launch for the
Verify
Delta IV Heavy
T0
rocket
is
with
set for
NROL-82,
20:47,
including weather, no
0:00.
technical items or weather
Verified.
items that would prevent an on-time liftoff at 1:47 p.m. Pacific time, 3:47 Central, which is the clock we've got on our overlay, 4:47 Eastern, wherever you may be, but just under 5 minutes from now. Again, they're at a T-minus 4 minute and holding mark right now. They will release that hold in just under a minute and proceeding to the final minutes of this countdown. But again, all systems are go with Delta IV Heavy right now.
How you like this view? I got them both on the screen.
That best of both worlds right there.
There we go.
Shiny
Perfect.
rocket and orange rocket.
Yeah, shiny rocket good, orange rocket good, different orange rocket good, flamey rocket good, whatever.
Flamey rocket good.
I
Yeah.
mean, both rockets can get pretty flamey at times. I'll leave that.
No,
with people.
that's true.
And if any of you here have not watched an NROL launch before, this is similar but not exactly identical to other launches you may have seen. They will cut off the live stream, I believe, just after fairing separation. So you won't get to see the entire launch all the way to second engine cutoff. We will get to see booster separation and center core separation, but after that, because of the classified nature of the mission, they will cut the webcast short and instead go back to showing launch replays. And that goes the same for any launch vehicle carrying an NRO payload. Falcon 9 does it too, as does Atlas.
Yes. And the countdown hold has been released. They are past the T-minus 4 minutes and counting mark now.
we are here to cover both of these things. I mean, we're certainly watching both. If you look on the Starship side, there's no recondenser on yet, so we're at least 30 minutes away from a static fire. So we are going to focus on the Delta IV Heavy. When it goes, we'll go full screen so we can watch that launch, and then we're just going to probably stay live for whatever Starship ends up doing. But we know that the pad out there at Boca Chica is clear, and we know that we're less than 4 minutes away from the Delta IV there, and we're just going to juggle this as best we can. What a problem to have, like I said.
We also lucked out because the weather out in Vandenberg actually looks beautiful. There's none of that pesky marine layer or anything. So this is rare. Not a Delta IV Heavy with 0 technical issues on its first launch attempt. Vandenberg without fog. This is a weird scenario. I'm not sure what's going on, but I like it.
Am I dreaming? Can someone pinch me? I know we're virtual. Can someone pinch me?
We got a couple of questions here, and we got like 2 minutes to answer questions. A question here from Rough Riders asking, do any parts of the boosters for Delta IV Heavy survive re-entry and land in the ocean? Some parts of it may survive the atmosphere or aerodynamic forces during re-entry, but it wouldn't survive impact, and there are recovery teams out there to recover any major debris that survives sort of the initial phase of launch. They don't just let it sit out there. But it doesn't really survive intact per se, as this is, of course, an expendable vehicle. It's actually one of the last Delta IV Heavy launches. There's only a handful left. I think 4 including this one, or is it 4 after this one?
I believe it's either 3 or 4 after this one. I do not know that off the top of my head.
Yeah, it is the last handful of Delta IV Heavy launches as it gets retired in favor of their new Vulcan rocket, along with Atlas V. So
cool.
There are 3 more after this mission. I just looked that up.
3 more out there. So this is
Yes.
so 4 left, including this one. Gotcha. That's
Yep.
the number that was in my head.
And I believe actually they have just finished up, I think it was a few weeks ago, down at the Stennis Space Center, they finished static fire testing of the final RS-68 engine, which is the first stage engine on Delta IV. So they're all done with building and testing engines. Now they just have to finish up building cores, and then Delta IV is in the history books.
And if you have not seen a Delta IV launch, let alone a Delta IV Heavy launch before, you should be prepared that this rocket tends to light itself on fire at liftoff. That's completely normal. These hydrogen-rich engines bleed off a lot of hydrogen at ignition, and that also engulfs the bottom of the rocket with a big flame. It's completely okay. The insulation takes care of all that and keeps the rocket nominal, and it actually looks really, really cool. So when you see that, nothing's gone wrong. It's a normal part of a Delta IV Heavy launch. We are just under 50 seconds away now from liftoff, so let's take a look at Vandenberg, California to see Delta IV liftoff.
And when we get down under 30 seconds here, I am going to bring in the audio from ULA here. So
That's right now. We're at
as well.
15 seconds.
Which stream are you watching, Thomas?
Am I off by time? It's 3. I thought it was 47 they were targeting.
40 seconds right now.
Oh, okay. I would hope if I looked at the T-minus counter. Ignore me, everybody.
I was confused for a second.
I
I'm
was
like,
so
Thomas,
confused.
They put it there for a reason.
And now it looks like it's no longer on the stream.
Yeah, they should be under 30 seconds now.
15 seconds.
Roll for ignition.
10, 9.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Delta IV Heavy rocket carrying the NROL-82 mission for the National Reconnaissance Office.
You on the pitch over maneuver? Parameters look good on all 3 cores.
And coming up, they'll be throttling down the
Core booster is now throttling down to the partial thrust level.
There we go.
Partial thrust achieved.
You are hearing the voice of Rob Kesselman providing launch vehicle ascent data.
Now 50 seconds into flight, vehicle is 3 miles in altitude, 5 miles downrange distance, traveling at 970 miles per hour. All vehicle systems look good at this time.
Everything nominal as Delta 4 starts to pitch to the south from Vandenberg on its way to a polar low Earth orbit.
Now at T plus 80 seconds, vehicle is now passing through max Q, maximum dynamic pressure.
I'm doing it because I can,
Mach
y'all.
1,
I'm putting
vehicle is now
it on one
supersonic.
side.
Give Delta its moment.
It had its moment. It set itself on fire.
All three RS-68 looks healthy at this time.
Trying not to talk over the
Vehicle
official
systems
net.
continue to be healthy.
See. Trying not to talk over the official net, but what was the percentage go? 30, 40%?
40% going into the
Second stage reaction control system pressurization valve has now opened. Now 125 seconds into flight. Delta is now 18 miles in altitude, 9 miles downrange distance, traveling at 1,800 miles per hour. Delta has now gone to closed loop guidance. Vehicle body rates are nominal.
You can see the vehicle rolling in that view.
Yeah.
Wow. I'd assume rolling to have a better
3
booster
minutes
separation
remain in the booster
trajectory.
phase of flight.
Most likely, yes.
Delta 4 rocket now weighs just 1/2 of what it did at liftoff, burning propellant at a rate of almost 5,000 pounds per second.
They always say that.
1 minute
Did we
until
just see-
port and starboard booster engine cutoff.
We just saw a Delta 4 go? Like a Delta 4 Heavy actually go?
You know, after NROL-84, we were all just
Vehicle
assuming this
systems look
wouldn't
healthy
happen
at
today,
this time.
weren't we?
The attitude
Exactly.
control system, the autopilot has controlled all vehicle body rates to near zero.
I think given that this vehicle launched on time in such unlikely weather conditions and on the first try, I think I'm going to buy a lottery ticket.
Approximately 30 seconds remaining now until the port and starboard booster engines cut off.
Oh, that's cool. So we'll get the two port and starboard engines cut off, and the boosters will sep.
Strap-on boosters are now throttling down to the partial thrust level.
And again, those side boosters are actually just additional first stages, the old tri-core rocket configuration.
Yep.
Strap-on booster cut off, and separation of the strap-on boosters.
There they go.
Core booster is now throttling back up.
And now that center core will ramp back up to full power, and it's basically operating like a Delta 4 medium at this point.
Core booster is operating as expected at the 100% throttle
Toss is
level.
going to keep showing Starship, which is not doing anything.
Starship has not reached orbit yet. I'm checking.
Neither is Delta 4 Heavy, to be fair.
It's true. That is true.
The upper stage lock system has now begun the boost phase chill-down sequence to begin thermal conditioning of the RL-10 engine.
Someone put over the Starship just soon.
1 minute remaining in the booster phase of flight.
Yeah, everything nominal at this time.
Upper stage fuel system has begun the boost phase chill-down sequence.
And they're now getting the second stage RL-10 engine ready to have its several minute burn.
The RL-10 is the one with the extending nozzle. Like, it separates, and then the nozzle
Yep.
actually gets longer so that they
If-
can... Go ahead.
If we're lucky
performance
on this
continues
mission,
to
we
look
might
good
get
at this
extender
time.
cam.
Oh, man.
Extender
NROL.
cam.
Oh.
Well, it's not looking at the payload, so they might. I think they actually might.
Yeah.
We'll see. We've seen it before, and Delta 4 launches pretty much
Vehicle
nothing
body
but
rates
National
continue to be
Reconnaissance
near
payload, so I'm
zero
pretty
as
sure they've
expected.
shown that. We'll
Yep.
hope. This is also the same upper stage, basically, that will be used on the initial version of SLS. They've
Core
basically
booster is
taken the
now
Delta Cryogenic
throttling
second
down.
stage, which is the upper stage on Delta 4, and stretched it slightly to make it the interim cryogenic
We
propulsion
have
stage for
Eco.
SLS, but they're
First
basically the
stage main
same.
engine cutoff.
There is Miko.
We have stage separation.
Oh, there we go.
Up here
Next
comes
deployment
there
has
is
begun.
the nozzle
Hey.
extension.
Restart on the RL-10.
Oh, look at that.
That's cool.
We have ignition on the RL-10. That's one. We have indication of successful payload fairing jettison.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, apparently,
This year, the National Reconnaissance Office celebrates its
Das
60th
loves all his
anniversary.
children.
From
SpaceX is about to put the lifting cap on the Falcon 9 that is at Port Canaveral. So since we're just in simulation mode for the Delta 4 launch, they are actively working, SpaceX actively working there at Port Canaveral to lift that Falcon 9 booster. Oh, look at this. What is it? What am I going to get this like? Oh, we're going to be talking on the side. Well, that's a good way for me to switch to another stream. ULA.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, they're like we said, they're gonna wrap up any live onboard views of the classified NRO mission now. So, although it's interesting, they've added Electron to their NRO launch vehicles now since they've started launching some stuff. But so Delta 4 Heavy live coverage is actually going to wrap up because of the classified nature of the payload. The ULA and the National Reconnaissance Office will confirm on social media once the rest of the flight has been completed. But we're
Yep.
going to turn our attention to other spaceflight events, including Fleet Cam.
This is the most confusing setup here because it's a guy talking and then the lifting cap being put on top of a Falcon 9. Like, what is even happening? Here's that full view there since ULA is going to B-roll and animations and stuff like that. Let's talk a little bit about that really quickly, Thomas. Like, they cut that camera at a specific time during the NROL launches. We don't get to see them go all the way to orbit. Can we explain that really quickly? What's going on there?
Right, so the payload on board that mission is a classified payload for the National Reconnaissance Office, the agency of the U.S. government that handles spy satellites. And due to the classified nature, they're not going to broadcast any video of the payload itself. They don't want people to know what the satellite looks like. Interestingly, we actually do know what the satellite is. It is a KH-11, also known as a crystal satellite. It is actually more or less a Hubble Space Telescope that is pointed at Earth instead of out into space, more or less. Obviously, there's some differences, and a lot of it is classified. But what is publicly known is that it is basically a very big telescope used for optical reconnaissance. So, but they do not offer live views of those payloads on these missions. So they cover the initial phase of launch, and then once it's just the upper stage and the payload, in order to conceal its original orbit as well as the payload itself, they cut off live camera views, and they'll go ahead and just confirm that the mission was successful afterwards. So
now we're going to switch to, how about this sort of view? Ha!
Ooh,
there
double
we
SpaceX
go.
cam.
SpaceX cam.
We thought it was going to be confusing here because we had NROL and then Starship might be doing something, but then of course they toss in one more thing, the cap being. But we may, I mean, while we're here watching Starship, we may actually watch them lift that Falcon 9. I'll see if we can't pull this camera back a little bit after they put the cap on so you can get some context. The right-hand side of the screen is the top of a Falcon 9 rocket over at Port Canaveral right now. It's a little zoomed in.
Thanks to
Yeah,
those
and
little
again,
weights.
okay.
Oh, go ahead, Thomas.
I was just saying again, the pad in Boca Chica is clear, but we're standing by for actual signs of fueling activity. In the meantime, we are going to go ahead and we might as well just show Fleet Cam because why not? And there's stuff going on. We've also keep answering. We've got some questions in the queue. We can also answer Delta 4 questions while we're sitting around waiting as well. Das, you can actually show that if you want.
Well, it takes me a second.
Okay, Das is actually gonna. We'll talk about this, and we'll take some Delta 4 heavy questions while we're waiting for Starship to spool up. Anyway, let's see here. I'm looking for Delta 4 heavy. Here we go. Dougal asking, when was the last time a Delta IV Heavy was able to launch at the first attempt at first opportunity? Awesome. Now for a static fire. We were actually talking about this in our back channel, and we believe the last 2 of the 3 times a Delta IV Heavy has ever launched on its first ever attempt were other launches for these KH-11 satellites. So maybe it's something about these kind of payloads. We don't know, but it's pretty rare. The rocket doesn't launch that often, so technical items can rise up from just having a lower launch cadence. But of course, it is also a heavy lifting rocket, so it's one of the more complex launch vehicles out there. But yeah, it looks like the early phases of today's flight have gone perfectly, and we're glad to see it. Let's see here. Here's a question: why does SpaceX not have the go no-go voice and straight to the pole? Wasn't hearing them, didn't hear them announcing individual items since the pad abort test. Yeah, so SpaceX does their go no-go via computers, not over audio. So all of the launch controllers have just on their computer, they indicate whether they are go or no-go, rather than voicing them out loud. So that's just a difference between how the two companies kind of work through those things. It's not that they don't do the go no-go pool. Of course, SpaceX still calls out, the launch director still calls out that he is go for launch at a couple of milestones along the way, but they don't do the full pulling over audio, and it's just SpaceX likes to automate as much as they can, and they do theirs with computers instead of over the voice.
And Thomas, I've got this real quick. If you wanted to show this back to Delta IV Heavy really quickly, that is the miniature Hubble-looking thing that it was launching. Can I say? Right, can I call it a miniature Hubble-looking thing?
Yeah, I don't know if it's even miniature. I think it's the same size as Hubble. I don't think they much changed of anything. But you can see the resemblance. It is effectively a telescope, but of course we point it here at Earth for reconnaissance purposes.
So it's like a Hubble Space Telescope, but it's a Hubble Ground Telescope.
Yeah, something like that.
No, well, that doesn't make any sense because it's Hubble Space Telescope because it's in space, right?
I believe that the Hubble as well as the KH-11 are both built by Lockheed Martin, and I think they both share similar designs because you can see on the screen that is pretty much a Hubble, but you pointed in the wrong direction. But also NASA's next, or their second next space telescope, the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, is actually a spy satellite. It's literally a spy satellite they're putting different instruments on. The National Reconnaissance Office gave NASA 2 spy satellites they didn't need, and one of them is going to become the Roman Space Telescope. So I think that's pretty neat.
Maybe that's what it should be called. It should be called the Hubble Spy Telescope instead of the Hubble Space Telescope, because Space Telescope looks at nebulas and stuff like that, and Spy Telescope looks at, I don't know, somebody's car license plate or something.
I'll tweet at the NRO on Twitter.
I'm going to keep going through. We got a whole bunch of super chats and questions and stuff, so I'm going to start going through these. Desmo with the shout out for the L2 membership. It's worth it. Thank you, Desmo, for the super chat and for joining L2. If you would like to learn more about NASA Spaceflight L2, go to nasaspaceflight.com/L2, and you can check that out. Appreciate the support, no matter how you decide to support us. Philip Whitehouse with the Thomas Washington Nationals fan club. I'm going to begrudgingly name that one. Philip, thank you for the support, but let's go Mets. Adrian with the super chat saying, good evening from Manchester, UK. Good evening, Adrian. How are you doing? Thanks for the support. Multi-Space Industries with the Thomas fan club as always. Thank you, MSI. Appreciate it. Scotsman with the new membership. Thanks for joining on, as well as Jacob with a new membership. Appreciate the support. Alright, what is this? I've seen this a couple of places and I'm missing the reference. Musical Wolves is asking if NASA could use Delta IV to deliver sweaters to Crew 2 if they can't find them. Was there a sweater thing on Crew 2 that I completely missed?
They couldn't find their sweaters. They were trying to find the sweaters because it was a little chilly or something, and they couldn't find where the sweaters were stowed in the Dragon.
Did they eventually find the sweaters?
I think they did.
What
sort
if
of
they
gave
just
up
forgot
on
to
it.
pack the sweaters? I don't know.
I don't know. I actually don't know.
Alright, well, in theory...
Sorry, other Chris here. If you think not being able to find your sweaters is bad, imagine getting to orbit, being very, very hungry at the end of a long day, and not being able to find the silverware. Which happened once. That was one of the more awesome call downs at like 2 o'clock in the morning to Mission Control a few years ago was, we found the food. Where's the stuff to eat it with?
Was that a shuttle thing, or was that?
It was
recent?
indeed a shuttle mission.
Excellent.
Hey, look at
That's
this. We've got now both the SpaceX, well, half of a SpaceX rocket on one side, because that's just the upper stage, and just the lower stage on the right-hand side. So I guess we have two
so we
halves
have
of-
one. So basically, what you're saying is we should take Starship and put it on a Falcon 9 booster.
put at the top of Falcon 9. They don't look like they're the same diameter. I mean, I'm not a diameterologist, like Jack would say.
Listen,
putting a
Ares
Starship-
1 didn't abide by diameter rules. Why should this one?
Starship Falcon is Ares 1 reincarnate.
No,
Ares
come on,
1
Ian.
version
Ian, we're
2.
not allowed to talk about Ares 1 on here. The banned subject.
Chris, you are objectively wrong, and
It's a silly rocket. I have
The Ares
made
1
my
fan club.
statement on that. And
there are dozens of us.
There are dozens of them.
dozens, literally dozens of Ares 1 fans.
But yeah, so hold on, I saw a question in chat here. That is the Falcon 9 booster that took Crew 2 to the ISS, right? Correct, Philip. Thank you for the super chat. And yes, this is booster 1061, which launched both Crew 1 and Crew 2. This is a Falcon 9 booster with an astronaut count. 8 astronauts launched to space on that vehicle, which is super, super cool. Now that it's back in port, it will actually be available to support missions that are not crew missions. They'll be using it to launch other customer payloads, things like Starlink satellites, and it'll be able to support a broader manifest. But 8 astronauts have used that booster to get to space, which is pretty cool.
Thomas, Bebs over on Twitch said that both of the Ares fans are on the stream right now.
Wow.
I feel attacked, but I can't disagree with you.
I'm trying to figure out who the other one is. like one of us is a secret Ares fan club member over here. We know Thomas is.
I think Ian's with me.
I
think me
beg
and
your
Ian.
pardon? I'm one of the founding members.
One of the
Ian's
founding
vice
members.
president,
Okay.
you know?
All right. Oh, okay.
Let's see here. Question from Paul. I was wondering if the additional boosters on the Delta IV rocket use the same propellant as the main booster. Yeah, so the tricore...
5. All right. Brief technical hiccup there. I think we're giving too many views of too many different things going on, but should be good to go. Let me know in chat there. We just had a little bit of a stutter on our end, but that should be back now. Let me know if that has returned. Looking like it's returned for me. Let's see here. It says YouTube says excellent connection. So,
Yep, but we got confirmed that we're back.
yeah, okay.
And don't forget to refresh your screen if it comes back not HD.
Yeah, put that into if you get it all pixeled or something like that, or if y'all want to put that in chat as well, like if it's frozen for people, in chat you can say refresh the screen. We just had a little bit of a hiccup, a little freeze there, but we are definitely right back to Starship, so sorry about that.
And a message from Buff in chat saying that the Ares 1 tall killed the stream. I refuse to believe that's the case.
True. No, I think that's a very good point, actually. Yeah, we should never mention it again.
Moving on, I'm going to finish answering this question. Paul was asking about the additional boosters on Delta IV. Yeah, so Delta IV basically taking 2 additional first stages and strapping them to the side. Thus, they do use the same propellant. They're all liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen fueled and powered by an RS-68A engine. Yeah, so they're just additional first stages, so they have the same propellant and engines on board. And again, if you are just joining us, we're looking at Starship SN15 now, which is getting ready for some static fire testing today. Delta IV Heavy successfully lifted off on the NROL-82 mission earlier and is continuing its flight profile. We'll have more additional confirmation that the rest of the flight has gone well after the fact, as it is a classified mission, but the initial phase went perfectly. And so we're going to stay live and cover Starship now because it is a busy day in the spaceflight world right now.
Not a bad problem to have. Also, Thomas, we've got this, some tweets, images coming in from that Delta IV launch. Michael Baylor was out there and captured this shot of the Delta IV going. And you can see how the Delta IV has sort of burned itself. That hydrogen burn off from the chilling down the engines. You can see that the rocket flying through the air is a little toasty as it goes. So we'll keep bringing those up. I know Jack got some as well. Might be a little video clip or something like that too. But while we're waiting on Starship, we know the pad's clear. We know they're supposed to be going for a test today, but I'll keep bringing up these as they come in. Sound good?
Sounds good. That's from the NASA spaceflight team. That one was Michael Baylor, correct?
Yes, that was Michael. I'll link it up in chat so people can go directly to that tweet, etc., etc.
And we know that Jack Byer was out there as well, so he'll have some imagery, and we will share all of those because they are out there doing excellent work as always. But I'm going to keep going through some super chats and some questions here. David asking any updated information or conjecture on the mystery nose cone apparatus. So what you're seeing on the screen right now, actually kind of in the middle of the screen, that nose cone with a bunch of structures around it. Our latest speculation is that it's some sort of structural test article testing the loads on the nose cone structure. But again, that's not even really confirmed. We don't have an official answer as to what exactly that is, but that's what we expect it to be. And we'll stay tuned to see if they do anything visible with it. But that's our latest informed speculation, if you will. Paul with the super chat saying greetings from Romania. Thanks for joining, Paul. Appreciate it. Let's see here. David asking, are we going to continue to see Starship launches on a regular basis over the next few years? Thanks for all you do, guys. Really enjoy all your live streams. Keep it up. Thank you so much for the 20-pound super chat, David. Appreciate it. As Starship launches, I mean, right now we're seeing a test program, which is different, you know? We're seeing them launch vehicles as they are ready to conduct their various test flights. In a few years, we're going to be talking about operational and orbital missions with not just Starship, but Super Heavy. So that's going to change a bit. But a big goal of the Starship program is to launch very regularly and routinely. So that's a goal of the program, and I think the number of launches in a given time frame will increase because they'll want to launch even more rapidly. And again, it'll become a very regular thing if they meet their goals. So yeah, we will not only continue to see regular flights, but we'll actually see more as they move from a test program to operational operations. Yeah. Jacob with the super chat, thank you so much for your support. Appreciate it. Erg with the super chat, thank you. And Michael with a new membership, thanks for joining on. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Louis asking, have any of us been interviewed for the Dear Moon project yet? I don't know, Ian, you?
Unfortunately, no, I didn't make it past round 2.
I personally, I don't know. The Dear Moon seemed like weird to me. I was like, yeah, I'll pass. I'll let someone else get on that ride.
We're on the same page, Thomas.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, launching on Starship, in a few years, I'm sure it'll be a very proven and reliable system. Right now, I'm not going to sign up for Starship just yet. And, I don't know, the whole, like, go to space with a billionaire thing was a little weird. I don't know. I'll let some other people enjoy that unique opportunity, and there will be other opportunities maybe in the future. Let's see here. Colton saying when there is a will, there is a way. Stick SN15 on the Falcon 9. That's what I'm saying. Colton, appreciate the support. Rough Rider's asking, are they going to fill the blunt nose cone with cryopropellant, then push against it?
Recondenser? On Mary's view?
Is it? Looks like it might be spooling up.
Certainly looks like it, yeah.
Yeah.
That looks like it, yep.
Good sign that testing is spooling up. To answer this question quick, we really don't know any testing plans for the nose cone structure, so we'll stay tuned and see if we can hear or see anything about that, but right now we're focusing on Starship SN15, and like we said, Recondenser looks to be coming online right now, so they are getting ready to move into fueling operations for today's static fire test. And a super chat asking, does the telescope also need glasses? Is that a Hubble vision correction?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm going to clap at that one. That was good.
Nice. And,
also,
hey, Chris,
if it does need glasses, we'll probably never hear about it. But anyway.
Yeah, right.
It's going. It is going good. I'm happy to join you for the Starship part of this now that I have the Delta article updated after they have lifted off.
All right.
The first attempt. My gosh, so surprising.
I was so
Wonderful for ULA.
confused. I was like, what rocket is this? What's flying right now?
You know, I don't know if and apologies if this was mentioned on stream before, but we went digging, and I believe William discovered that there have been that as of today there have been 4 Delta IV Heavies that launched on their very first attempt, and 3 of the 4 of them carried Crystal spy satellites. So, you know,
The power
maybe
of
it's the
classified.
payload, right? Maybe it's the payload that gets the Delta to launch.
Well, we know those Orion satellites aren't doing too hot after NROL-84. How many scrubs was there?
Yeah, and I don't think they would tell us, hey, we had an issue with our Orion satellite.
Yeah, that's true. Although we do kind of know what the technical issues were. We knew it was ground support equipment
Yeah.
almost all the time. So.
Yeah.
Which was actually really good because ULA did a really good job of not only making the fixes to that pad at the Cape, but as we saw today, really making those fixes to the pad at Vandenberg as well, leading to a very successful flight today. So kudos to them. And may we say preemptive kudos to SpaceX. Hopefully we'll get to say that a little later in the evening.
We got actually a question here. Does Delta IV use propellant crossfeed? No, correct?
No, it does not.
No.
It does not.
So the way they actually handle their staging is instead of pumping propellant from the side boosters into the center core so that the center core can burn longer, they actually just, for max Q, when they have to throttle down and reduce their thrust to manage the stresses on the vehicle, they only throttle down the center core and leave the 2 side boosters at full thrust. So thus the side boosters burn off the propellant faster, and then the center main stage reserves some of its fuel and allows those boosters to be popped off as soon as they can. Same way that Falcon Heavy handles its sort of tri-core staging. There's no propellant crossfeed there either. So that's how that's handled.
And you can actually see it if you look at the photos after it throttles down. You can see that the center core engine flame is smaller, and you can like visually see that it's burning less propellant. It's just throttled down a little bit so that there's some left over. You can do that exact same thing in Kerbal. You can literally throttle down the central core and then burn the exact same amount of fuel in the 2 tanks, and you'll see that the center core has fuel left over because it's not using it as quickly. And then when the boosters disconnect, the center core throttles back up, and it keeps on keeping on. So, very cool.
And rounding out the Delta IV Heavy questions, is it normal that Delta IV burns itself at launch? Yep, that's completely normal, and it actually has been mitigated a little bit. If you look at like the very first ever Delta IV Heavy launch, it was like even more dramatic. They've kind of staggered the start of the 3 cores now, so it's not as dramatic, but it still looks, you know, dramatic. But they've mitigated it a little bit. It's just a normal part of starting up the hydrogen-fueled engines that power the Delta IV Heavy rocket. The insulation and things on the outside of the tanks protect itself from that brief fire at the base of the rocket, and it's completely normal.
You could also see a difference between Delta IVs that launch out of the Cape and Delta IVs that launch out of Vandenberg. The ones that launch out of Vandy seem to be more charred looking, and I've always wondered if that has something to do with like the environment or the weather there, or the humidity. Like, is there something about the weather at Florida that protects them a little bit, or something about Vandenberg that makes them char a little bit more?
Is there something different about the flame trench design or something like that?
It's potentially, yeah, because they are different pads as well. I don't know. I've just noticed that they seem to be super charred when they go off from Vandenberg.
The Vandenberg flame trench uses a shuttle's flame trench, so it splits out. 2 of the boosters go to the left, 2 of the boosters go to the right, or to one side and the other.
And it all goes in one direction at the Cape, right?
Yes, it all shoots out like diagonally into the Cape.
Yeah, because it's always toast that one fence right there. So
Yeah.
it really does. I mean, it toasts that one fence. There's just a fence it's been burned by, well, at least 3 rocket exhausts.
Well, I think if my memory serves, I think the fence usually just disappears, right?
I think it has in the past just disappeared.
Man. I do want to acknowledge, I'm seeing some messages in chat, and I'm kind of following social media too. This is relevant to Starship, and oh, by the way, if there was any doubts that recondenser has come online, it definitely is now.
Yeah.
Full steam ahead. But I'm seeing some messages in chat, we can talk about this for a bit. Some breaking news out of the Human Landing System program.
I was just going to ask if we had talked about this.
Yeah, so I'll give a brief overview of what has just come out. Blue Origin, one of the 3 original human landing system entrants, has filed a protest with the GAO, which is Government Accountability Office, right?
I think so.
Yes, okay, thank you. Filing a protest regarding NASA's selection of SpaceX's Starship vehicle for the human landing system over their own proposal. In Blue Origin's words, they say that NASA has executed a flawed acquisition for the human landing system program and moved the goalpost at the last minute. In NASA's own words, it has made a high-risk selection. So that is an excerpt from an official protest that Blue Origin has now filed regarding not being selected for the human landing system.
I'd like to point out there's a couple things.
Yeah, so my original reaction, some context here. So, of course, just was it last? I guess it was 2 weeks ago. NASA selected SpaceX's Starship-based human landing system for the Artemis program for 2 initial missions, an uncrewed and a crewed demonstration, while getting ready to conduct a new acquisition for further missions beyond on a more recurring basis. The selection of SpaceX's Starship was largely based on budget constraints and the fact that they even had to negotiate with SpaceX a little bit to afford that option, and SpaceX Starship was the cheapest of the 3. So they didn't really have budget to select 2 options, which is what they wanted to do, and even though they were limited to 1, the only one that they could possibly afford was SpaceX's. So that's kind of the rationale that went into that decision. Starship was also very highly rated, technically higher rated than the other 2, so it was a pretty obvious choice. Blue Origin's bid was not only lower technically rated and more expensive than the Starship bid, it was also technically not eligible for selection because Blue Origin violated a rule about advance payments for kickoff meetings, which would have had to been corrected in order for them to be selected. So they were actually not, their proposal was actually not eligible for selection in the first place. So some important context to that protest that was just filed by Blue Origin.
So Thomas, go Chris, go.
Yeah, because the only thing I wanted to add to that is protests are normal in these types of things. We see it happen with the companies that lose. What is amazingly tone deaf to me is Blue Origin filing a protest based on rules and requirements when they themselves have violated the rules and requirements
so that's what
the contract they were applying for. So I mean, man, I mean, and also the government, and this is a good point. The government is allowed to only go back to one of the bidders if it is simply a price consideration, and the bidder is prohibited from changing anything that they are going to deliver in the contract. So this is a normal protest that has really no leg to stand on, except for the fact that the Alabama delegations in Congress are likely to grab onto this and try to make a big deal out of this, since both Blue and Dynetics are Alabama companies, and Alabama has lost significantly with this award. So I don't really think this is something that'll go far in the Government Accountability Office. I think this is something designed to let Congress people grab hold of it and potentially try to force NASA to undo the contract and redo it and set them back just because Old Space didn't win.
So this was something I read, that the whole selection document that they put together like a few times, and I was interested in some of the language. And I don't know if this is actually important or not, so I would lean on y'all. But in the document, it didn't say that they violated the request. It didn't say that their proposal violated the prepayments thing. It used some very specific language saying that they interpreted it as violating the thing. It didn't say it violated it. So I'm wondering, does that mean anything? Are they going to try something there and say, no, you read that wrong, that's not actually what we were asking for?
So admittedly, that's not how I read it. So I need to go back and reread that section, because I very much read NASA saying, unfortunately, they submitted a bid that was not within, that violated the scopes of what we asked for. But if the situation had been different and their bid had been more viable, we could have gone back to the same thing we did with SpaceX and say, fix this. So it was a violation, but it wasn't a violation that precluded NASA from necessarily going back. However, the technical risk of what Blue Origin submitted along with the price basically made NASA go, there's no viable way. Well, it's not the same as going to SpaceX and saying, can we talk about how you're going to pay, how we pay you for this, versus Blue Origin, which was, we don't even think there's a worth to go back to you and talk to you about this. Also, your bid was illegal.
Yeah,
but
that's
we
not
could
what
have
I.
fixed this had it been had it been more technically viable and less risky.
See, I didn't
But
read
again,
that either.
I need to go back and read it because we read it differently. Yeah.
The stuff that I saw was they could have gone back to fix it, but they didn't have the budget, and they could not have reapproached Blue Origin in good faith, knowing that
Right.
even if Blue Origin fixed it, they wouldn't have the money to award to. That's tank farm activity, by the way. They wouldn't have the money to. So it said good faith in there, like. Even if they fixed it, we don't have the money to choose them too.
Right.
Right.
Even if they went back and resolved the advance payment thing, which again it's possible to do, even though like in its current state, what the exact wording that NASA used was this is ineligible for selection in its in its current proposal.
There we go. Yes.
Which again could have been corrected if that was the only problem. They would have just gone back and restructured the payment structure. Very similar to how they did with SpaceX. But the problem is, even if they went back and fixed that, they still wouldn't have been able to afford the bid, and the price wasn't close where they could renegotiate the price and get it close. I mean, it was more than double what SpaceX proposed, and even SpaceX's bid was technically unaffordable. They had to adjust the payment structure there to make it work. So there wasn't any point in going back and fixing that. But in the format that Blue Origin proposed their bid, it was ineligible to be selected by NASA due to this advance payment problem.
Yeah.
Do we know how much Dynetics bid was?
All we know is that it was
a lot.
significantly more than Blue Origin, and we now know that Blue Origin's was $6 billion, according to the New York Times. So, yeah.
A lot.
A lot.
And going back to what you said, Chris, actually about the Dynetics and Blue Origin being Alabama companies, the fact that NASA had to do a single selection rather than a double selection, which many people had expected, was it was going to be a loss for Alabama from the start. Because even if they could do a double selection, say they chose Dynetics maybe, Alabama would still get something out of it. But doing a sole selection with a California, Florida, and Texas company gives really no benefit to Alabama. So I could definitely see Congress protesting, but I cannot see it go well.
Yeah, and you know, like not to belabor a point to death, but it is also worth pointing out that, you know, NASA was also very upfront saying this is what we need for the first one, right? We're still interested in procuring additional vehicles for the lunar landing program, right? But so they are hoping to do this again and open up competitive bids for other landers after the first one, right? This is just a contract for literally an uncrewed demonstration lunar landing and then the first lunar landing. Beyond that, it's still anyone's game. Yeah.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on. Again, usually nothing really comes out of these kind of proposals, but or these kind of protests, excuse me. But worth keeping an eye on, and we'll see if maybe NASA at least takes anything Blue Origin has to say into consideration when procuring additional landings, maybe. But otherwise, just acknowledging that bit of news, and we'll see what comes from it. But for now, Starship is NASA's Artemis moon lander. So.
And a moon lander might begin to fly soon.
Not today, to see an engine test of a moon lander.
Yeah, not today, but we are expecting an engine test today. We can see tank farm activity is spooled up in Boca Chica, so Starship SN15 potentially finally reaching its static fire today.
Yeah, and as that tank farm activity continues to spool up, I'm going to bring this up really quickly, because now we've got some shots of NROL-82 from Jack Beyer. Both Jack and Michael were out there, and if I remember where I'm supposed to click to actually show this, here we go, there it is. Then we can see Jack actually got a couple shots as well. of that charred rocket. Now, they also set out some remote cameras, like the cameras that are there at the pad, and they won't be able to pick those up right away. It's usually hours or sometimes the next day before they're allowed to pick up those remote cameras, but these were the cameras. This was their view of the launch, and we may get some even closer up stuff, but I'm going to paste this one into chat as well so that Jack, y'all can go over and check out Jack's shots directly there. There's that. We'll put it over on Twitch too. And there you go. Make sure you toss a follow to Jack and Michael. They were both out there today trying to watch that launch. Back to Starship.
Jack, Starship. Any updates on, or can we not show Fleet Cam because we're afraid of it breaking things?
Dude, I can show whatever we want to show. Here you go. How's that?
There we go. Just checking, making sure we're looking at other things too.
Yeah, I don't know if they're just gonna go for a straight lift here, or if they're going to try to fold the legs on the drone ship and then do the lift. They do this over. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, sorry. Because I was going to say right there are two options, sort of depending on, I guess, kind of just which route they go. I don't know if it's weather dependent, but yeah, they can either lift him. They can either lift him over the barge, or they can put it on the stand first, right, Das?
Yeah, so they have to fold the legs up, right? Because they're going to fold those legs up. They're going to lay the rocket on its side. They put it on a transporter. They drive it back over to CC Space. What is it? Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, I'm supposed to call it, right?
Yes.
So they've got to fold the legs up before they can transport it, and they can either fold the legs here on the drone ship. You can see that big blue thruster is a station-keeping thruster. That's what makes the drone ship stay in sort of one spot, or at least a predictable spot when the rocket's trying to land on it. But sometimes they'll fold up the legs on the drone ship here, and sometimes they'll lift the rocket with the legs still deployed, and they'll fold up the legs on the shore. They've got like a stand on the dock that they can fold it up on. I don't know for sure what guides their decisions on that. I've always felt like it was sort of a drone ship turnaround time thing, where if they needed to get that drone ship back out there, they wouldn't worry about folding the legs on the drone ship. They just take the rocket over to the dock and then get the drone ship ready and send it back out to catch another rocket. But no confirmation, you know.
That's a good point. I hadn't considered that. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it's weather or seas or something like that. Like there's all sorts of different reasons that they may be folding that up that way. So I'll keep watching that.
Checking in on Port Canaveral, yeah. But focus is on Starship. Again, they just started up tank farm activity, so we're going to stand by for a propellant load to actually start, but they're getting ready. Again, this is for a static fire attempt. There's not a hop today. There's no wind hop going on here. This is Starship SN15 static fire testing. It's 3 Raptor engines on the bottom, ready to conduct some readiness firings to make sure it is ready for launch later this week, but no launch happening today. As always, we'll be answering questions and stuff, so I'm going to go back into the question queue and see what we've got. Let's see here. Oh yeah, David with the super chat talking about the Blue Origin protest. Yeah, we just talked a whole bunch about that. Appreciate the support and helping bring that to our attention. Also, Joseph asking about the Blue Origin pick, so we've talked about that a bit. Thank you all so much for the support. Appreciate it. Josh saying greetings again from SRB country. Does that mean Utah?
Ooh, Utah.
But thank you so much for the support there. Appreciate it.
I'm also going to say there's so many people asking when hop in chat right now. And quite frankly, if you're wondering when the hop is going to happen, you should probably let other people know by wearing a wind hop. Is that a polo shirt with an embroidered wind hop on it? That's
It
a little
is
much,
for when you're
honestly.
feeling fancy or classe.
I know. Oh, here's the wind sleep mug as well. That's in the wind hop merchandise line. But we've got a couple things over in the store too. I'll link this up in the chat. Go ahead, Chris.
You know when hop is on Urban Dictionary now, right?
Oh, it is.
It is.
No.
When hop, a phrase coined by NASASpaceflight during the SpaceX Starship SN8 high-altitude flight test live stream.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
Of course, we've got old Hoppy over there waiting by not so patiently for the hop to occur. So if you're so concerned about when the hop is going to be, go over to shop.nasaspaceflight.com. I put the link into chat, and you can show people exactly how concerned you are about when the hop's going to occur.
So good.
There you go.
And we can see.
Back to y'all.
Go ahead, Ian. Sorry. Yeah.
So I was just saying that tank activity's really ramped up. You can tell we're getting further and further deeper into the countdown. I believe Adrian, our schedule, our spreadsheet guy, has said on Twitter that they're about 449 to 459 for the T0. So sometime around there, based on when the recondenser started up. So as we get further and further into the countdown, he'll be able to give us a more exact timeline to when we can expect T0 to be.
And I don't know if I'm going to try to put the T- up on the top. There's still a lot of things going on. We're waiting for that propellant loading to start, but I don't know that I should try to put the T0 up there. Michael's out in the field. He was over there seeing that NROL, and the static fire just happened to coincide with that. So I am here beating some of Michael's code into, not code, I'm not recoding anything, just using interfaces that I don't always run myself. So I'll keep updating the checklist. How's that? It's a good compromise.
Yeah, we could keep the timeline up. We'll know our T0 time, so don't need to worry about the countdown, I don't think.
Yeah.
Especially given it's static fire test and it's fluid and all that thing.
And Adrian has just DM'd me and told me he's expecting 453 to be the T0, approximately.
There we go.
So we are just under 20 minutes then. Thank you. Let's see, Andrew with the super chat. Thank you for the support. Appreciate it. Useless Theory with a new membership. Thanks so much. Alex, here's a question for us. Do we think that Starship and Super Heavy launches will get so mundane we don't cover every launch?
Oh, jeez. I mean, as long as y'all keep showing up, we'll keep
That's
streaming
true.
them.
That's true. As long as you guys keep showing up to watch, we will keep streaming them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A question here from
Please keep showing up.
Cedric. So please keep showing up. Cedric asking, could Starship fly point-to-point flights without Super Heavy? Yes, depending on the distance. Elon, I believe, tweeted about this a while ago, saying that if it's a shorter flight, you don't need the Super Heavy booster. If it's longer, you'll need the booster. So point-to-point will kind of be a combination of Starship only and full-stack flights. But yes, there are certain routes that are short enough that you can still have the useful amount of payload on a Earth-to-Earth transportation flight with just Starship.
I like that it's sort of becoming like, you know, you're boarding the regional version of of point-to-point versus the global version. I like it.
And I'm sure the version with the booster on there will cost a significant amount more to pay for the fuel and upkeep on the booster.
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly,
I mean, not
yeah.
unlike
Yeah.
airline flights, different prices for different distances. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's see here.
Thomas, I just saw a
Yeah.
question in chat that I have to ask real quick.
Okay.
We all saw in the daily video the Starcat that was hanging out at
Yes.
SpaceX. What do they do with the cat during tests? Does somebody, like, secure the cat?
I think the cat was at the build site.
Yeah, wasn't the guy at the build site?
So they
That
keep
looked like the build site fence.
The cat doesn't get to travel around. It, like, stays over near the build site. It doesn't come over to the test site.
I mean, I don't
I
think
sure
there's really
hope
nothing
so. Now
over.
you've got me nervous, Dawes.
I'm just saying. It's such a cute little Starcat that was running around. I just want to make sure that the Starcat is secured and not trying to get a ride on Starship to Starspace or something.
I wonder if Starcat got to meet Zeus and Apollo.
Well, I was just going to say the biological cat has to stay at the build site, whereas the mechanical dogs can go to the launch site. There we go.
That's why the
Mary
robot
confirmed,
dogs.
Cat is at the production site. We
Okay.
are good. Cat is safe. Thank you, Mary, for that important information.
I was going to say
Whew,
that's why the robot dogs are at the launch site. They keep the cat away.
Yeah, there you go. That's the
Uh-huh.
real reason they have them. They're not inspection dogs.
No, keep the cat away. Aha!
Do you think they've held the countdown because they found the cat at the launch site?
Oh, right.
I mean, I would hold it.
Range violation by a cat.
Hopefully, yeah. So the next thing that we're waiting for on the checklist is, of course, propellant loading. Where do we look to see if propellant is being loaded? The bottom of
there.
Starship. Right
oh,
there.
look at that. And we've
So,
got some vapors near the bottom of the vehicle, so that
Yeah.
indicates propellant loading is in fact underway now.
There we go.
Excellent. And that you can see right there, the left-hand side, you can see some of the vapors. This is basically the same exact danger cam. It's just cropped a little bit to make it look a little bit bigger. But this is the same camera position there, and you can see pretty obviously those vapors on the bottom of Starship there.
There we go.
indicating- Yeah, exactly. They've put some cryogenic propellants, cryogenic liquids into that thing. So let's update the timeline, shall we?
Sounds good.
It's
Again,
starting to
move-
breathe, right? It's
Yeah.
going through its morning exercises, right?
It really is. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And we'll see if we can stay on top of those super chats. We're only 24 minutes behind. That's not so terrible. Thomas, somebody want to keep running those?
I'll do it. Let's see here. All right, a question from Jack's not here to answer the question. How much money would it take to get Jack to do a backflip?
Like into a pool or?
Yeah, I don't really know, Austin. We'll have to get back to you on that once Jack's on stream again. Nate Swenson with the super chat. Thank you so much for the support. Appreciate it. And then Nate also asking, what are some advantages or disadvantages in using hydrogen versus methane or something else? So, yeah, there's a couple different aspects. Hydrogen is very, very efficient. There are three main kind of types of propellant. You have hydrogen, you have methane, and you have some version of kerosene. So our RP1 kerosene is what you normally use. Delta IV Heavy uses hydrogen. Hydrogen is the most efficient of those three. Highest specific impulse when you build a hydrogen-fueled engine. So there's efficiency benefits there. However, hydrogen is not very dense, so your rocket ends up very, very, very big to hold the amount of propellant that you need. So that's a downside to that. Methane can be densified like it is on Starship, so it's nice and dense. Not as efficient as hydrogen, but not too bad. Methane is also higher performance in that you can get some higher thrust out of a methane-based engine, but again, at the cost of efficiency. And then the big benefit, and the reason Starship uses methane specifically, is that you can produce liquid methane with resources that are on Mars. So Starship, which wants to use resources on Mars to refuel, has chosen its fuel accordingly. Kerosene has some different benefits. Kerosene is even higher thrust, and that's a big reason why they went with it on Falcon 9, because with a propulsively landed vehicle, high thrust actually gives you more efficiency in the long run because your landing burns tend to be shorter. So there's some benefits there. However, it is the least efficient of those three types of fuel. So there's some downsides there. So it's mostly a trade-off between power and efficiency more than anything else. Kerosene is also densified, or can be densified, so kerosene and methane having that benefit. But yeah, there's a bunch of different trade-offs, and it really depends on what exactly you're going to use your vehicle for. Eric Hutchins is saying, thanks for the excellent coverage. Thank you for the 20 Canadian dollars there, Eric. We appreciate your support. We got a question here. Are we expecting any timetable changes with the launch spreadsheet due to SN15's new Raptors improvement? Which brings up a very good point. Based on some photos of near the bottom of SN15, the biggest and the most reliable source that a static fire or an engine ignition at all is about to occur has been that tri-vent, the 3 vents corresponding to the 3 Raptors near the bottom. However, the vents look different and may even be gone now. So we might not get a tri-vent when we normally do, which has been the sign that engine ignition is imminent. So if you're watching this with us, don't necessarily be looking for that tri-vent as a sure thing to come before engine ignition. We're going to have to keep an eye on this because, again, SN15 is the first in a line of starships to feature a bunch of upgrades that they've added to the design, and we think that may have changed. Obviously, we won't know for sure until, well, like 10 minutes from now or something. But, yeah, so... in fact, actually, I'm actually getting a DM from Adrian. Adrian, thank you.
I was going to say, I think Adrian said earlier today, like, that he's watching this one very closely because of the potential changes.
Yes, and he believes that we are actually past the point where tri-vent may have happened already. So, supporting evidence that tri-vent is in fact gone from the pre-ignition countdown. So. Again, we're watching this for the first time. We'll see if there are other changes or other cues we can pick up, but that may have changed, absolutely. So a good question to bring that up.
But of course, one thing we do expect to remain the same is that 10-minute warning that the deputy will give in Boca Chica Village. So we are still anticipating that that Mary would be able to hear a siren about 10-ish minutes prior to a static fire attempt here.
Correct.
But yeah, it's a good point because we really don't know how much of the visual element has changed with it. So it will be interesting to see them head down toward the final elements of liftoff or the final elements of the countdown toward Raptor engine ignition. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Liftoff is a couple of days away at least, but
Yes.
it will be interesting to see how things have changed.
Got some other comments and super chats here from regarding the Blue Origin and the HLS program. Andrew's saying that Blue Origin hasn't even made orbit. They have no base for an argument. To be fair, Dynetics is not a launch provider either. We're talking about Moonlander designs, so I'm not sure that's a one thing. I get what you're saying, but you know, Starship hasn't reached orbit either. These are future designs for future missions that are still under development. I'm just going to point that out. Thank you for the question from the super chat. Dustin White also asking, do we think that NASA could have selected Starship for HLS, at least in part because SpaceX was...
Trivents.
Oh, yeah.
Aha.
Alright, so Trivent isn't gone completely.
Okay.
Maybe they held, maybe they were a little late, or maybe it changed the timing
Or
of the
maybe the
process.
timing
We shall
changed,
see. I know Adrian is noting 4:44:05 in the spreadsheet right now.
Now, wait a
And
second.
we
Is
have
that...
got Adrian giving me a new T0, 4:45 and 54 seconds. That is
There you go.
just over a minute from now.
You
Very
can really see the
interesting.
direction the wind is blowing here.
Yeah.
And how
Dustin, we'll come back to your question after.
4:54, not 4:45.
54. Okay.
So
I was
we're
about to
10
ask.
minutes out.
Sorry. All right. Thank you, Adrian, for the type.
Yeah.
No problem there. 4:54. Thank you. Okay. All right. So cool. We have time to answer this question then. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So Dustin asking, do we think that NASA selected Starship at least in part because SpaceX was going to the moon with or without them, and they didn't want to be beat if they had picked the other designs? I will
can
start.
start.
I want to. Oh, go ahead, Chris. If you want to go for it, go for it.
Oh, I was just gonna help you out. You've been talking a lot, Thomas. I feel bad. That's all I was gonna offer to let you take a break and to get a drink if you wanted, like a drink of water. I personally would not say that that's why they chose it. I think if that's why they chose it, every other company would have a major reason to file a protest. And for people to step in and go, you know, you have to redo this. And to be clear, that's not how NASA would make the decision. SpaceX was definitely interested in the moon for what it could provide for the overall, you know, versatility of the system, but it definitely was not their, this is what we're doing first, is designing a lunar lander. They are full bore on the Mars vehicle, but the Mars vehicle just so happens you can tweak it a little bit and it could serve you as a lunar lander. I think in large part it was the technical reliability of the design, especially since this lunar lander does not have to certify the Raptor flip and burn reignition for landing humans back on Earth, because that's not how it will land on Mars. I'm also hearing in the background that Mary is hearing the siren, so
Yeah.
that is further support that we are about 10 minutes away per what Adrian was saying a few minutes ago. Didn't want to miss that. It does look like we are at the T-minus 10-minute mark here, as the siren has been heard at Boca Chica Village. But I think it was a combination of the technical merits of the design, the progress SpaceX has already made on the design. These are not high-fidelity mock-ups with some engines in a static fire chamber that have been tested. These are prototypes that have flown to start working out some of the kinks of the overall design. And the price point. You know, SpaceX also is assuming a large part of the funding of this and the development of the lunar version of Starship on their own, outside of the NASA funding. But, you know, if the source selection document from NASA does make it very clear that the Starship design was a very solid design. The engineering element of it, the reliability element of it, the technical risk assessment of it, all of it did get very high marks from NASA, where some of the other competitors fell short in some or all of those categories as well. Reading the source selection document from NASA, it really doesn't read as anything other than this was the best design that was presented to NASA. It also happened to be the most affordable design that was presented. and SpaceX was able to tweak the structure of the overall $2.9 billion bid so that they're still getting the full $2.9 billion, but it's just within what the government has said they're providing NASA and when they're providing it. So it ends up being a win-win for those two companies in that regard. Would SpaceX have eventually gone to the moon on their own? I think the answer is yes, but they definitely wouldn't have been going there first.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah.
And I'm getting an update on the T0 here. 54 approximately, so maybe just right around 55. So 4:55, that's like 5, 6, 7, 6.5 minutes. When am I supposed to change it to static fire imminent?
I think now.
Now, does that sound good?
I don't know, 4 minutes out, I think we're good.
I don't know. It's nice having Michael around. Let's put it that way, because he usually makes these decisions. It's imminent.
You know, because it's a new vehicle. Yeah, I'd switch it to static fire imminent.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the deputy's a little late and it's not a full 10 minutes. This is a new vehicle. I think we're within our rights to say static fire imminent.
Yeah. So there was a siren, also going by the Trivent and stuff like that. I mean, it's coming right up here. Probably in about 6 minutes, a little bit less than 6 minutes. So when it gets down to 4:54, we'll start really taking a look at this because we think we're going to see this thing go.
And a question here in chat from Blue Hexagon, asking, is SN15 using autogeneous pressurization? So autogeneous pressurization is when they take a small amount of the propellant going to the engines, they heat it up and push it back in a gaseous form into the tanks to pressurize the tanks, instead of having something like helium or nitrogen to pressurize the tanks. On SN8, they did have autogeneous pressurization, but there was an issue that caused the header tank to collapse, so they stopped using autogeneous for at least SN9. Now, with SN15, they did change the Raptor design, and there have been several internal changes that Elon has said. So while we don't have direct confirmation of whether or not they're using autogeneous, I would guess that it's pretty likely they're using it. I'd be pretty surprised if they weren't by now on SN15 using autogeneous. Anyone else have any thoughts?
Short. I mean, I think I'm nothing to add to that. I don't think.
Alrighty. A question from Adam asking, what's Adrian's Twitter? I'm sure we can pull that up in the chat. You can follow Adrian on Twitter. He'll talk about progress that he's made in doing the spreadsheets and getting everything figured out with Starship's countdown.
Yeah, if mods could put that link in the chat, that would be appreciated. We got a couple new memberships that have come here through. Avra Spark with a new membership and Brandon with a new membership. Thank you so much. Also, Phantom, a new membership. So thank you all for the support. We greatly appreciate it.
Another question here from Johannes asking, anyone else? I just joined and I'm confused on what the second nose cone looking structure is in the scaffolding. Please help me out. So sure. So what you're looking at there on the right side of the screen, just in front of the crane, that is a nose cone test structure. So that nose cone, which we believe may have been from SN12 actually, which never got it to full assembly, that is in a test cell, and what we believe is going to happen is they're going to stress it by pulling down on it, by pulling on the flaps to simulate.
Is that's a different vent port up at the top?
Oh,
it
is.
Oh,
look at
yeah,
that.
You're right. Look at that.
It's venting on the lateral translation between the leeward and the windward side.
Yeah, you can really see it from this from Mary's angle here.
Yeah.
Good eye, Chris. Nice.
That's a header tank venting, isn't it?
That
Yeah.
I believe that is the header, which would make sense because you'd be
That's
loading
what's
the
up
header
there.
tank this late. Yeah.
That looks, yeah, that's very different from what we've seen before. It seems like a more standardized one, because the header tank vent we saw before was just a pipe sticking off.
Yeah.
It kind of was like oh,
Yeah.
we need a vent. Kerbal it. Boom.
Yeah. It's probably like they just finished assembling. Oh wait, we need a vent for the header tank. Weld this on.
Well, so interestingly, normally if they were doing a static fire, they usually wouldn't even bother venting or fueling the header tank, because they would just fire from the main tanks anyway. I wonder why they're fueling both sets of tanks for just a short static fire. That's interesting.
Could they be going?
Yeah.
Could the SN15 line be able to static fire from the main tanks, shut down, switch to the header tanks, come back in a couple of minutes and refire, like to simulate the separation timing between when they do it in flight? Can they do that on the ground?
That would be a very interesting test. But I'm
I mean,
sure
it would
very
be
helpful.
kill two birds with one stone on your static fire, potentially.
And coming up in about
nice.
2 minutes here, y'all. We're at 2 minutes.
go.
But by the predictions, I think that chat is probably going to murder me if I don't stay on this camera. I'm not sure, but I fear for
think
my
so, too.
safety reading some chat. So
I want us on this version, yes.
yeah, I think we'll go ahead and stay here for now, unless we see something really big from another camera. But
Yeah.
and then after, because this will get very quickly obscured. It'll get a bunch of dust in its face. So we'll switch to a wider shot. We'll see if we can catch ignition from here.
I wonder if we'll be able to see the staggered start.
Oh yeah, one way to find out.
Yeah. And now we're coming up on we're just over 1 minute away right now from static fire. And you can see on the right there that nose cone structure in the cage. I believe that's parked between pad A and pad B, actually.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And you can really see the venting now. If SN15 has the same pattern as the previous ones, the tri-vent should momentarily shut off and then turn back on. And that's about 17-ish seconds prior to ignition if the tri-vents are the same with the updated Raptor design. We have to wait and see.
And actually at ignition also the tri-vents will shoot out a very strong burst right before engine ignition.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see if that comes over.
Sorry, yes, if that wasn't clear, yes.
And around 30 seconds on the prediction. It's all a prediction, right? But it could happen now. Static fire really imminent. We need another thing in the list.
Static fire really imminent.
We need it now.
It's just in bold all caps, very imminent.
We are all quiet now.
Again, they could have also had a hold that we're unaware of because we're doing this all visually.
Yep, and there could have even been a change in the countdown with different tri-vents.
Yes.
You know I can make it static fire, right?
You can
I have a
change
the
screens.
camera view,
Yeah, I
right?
can change cameras. As soon as I change cameras, it'll static fire. You watch. I'm not changing cameras, by the way. I'm not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't do it, don't do it.
Somewhere, some poor people in chat were like, "No!"
I see some people asking for the split screen. Right now, these two, or the cameras aren't synchronized, so you would see it static fire on one camera before you saw it on another. So that's why I'm not using a split screen for point-in-time events like this. So we could do that. We're just not set up to do that right now.
You know, in a different reality, that could be a cool experiment of how much farther away is the other camera.
Yeah. I don't know if I can measure the speed of light using the distance between robotic cameras, Chris. I appreciate the point of confidence.
We have little faith. Come on,
Man,
we are called NASA.
Oh, yeah, okay. Getting some venting. And I'm also watching the wider cameras. I'm watching all the cameras, but if I see like a big depress vent or something that wouldn't be obvious from here, I will.
Yeah,
sing that out.
Again, remember about 2 minutes ago was a guess, an estimate based on what we were seeing. There could be a built-in hold. The timing of the tri-vent could have. Oh, sorry, there could have been an unplanned hold. The timing of the tri-vent could be a little different because this is SN15, the first one of the new series, and some things have changed. We've already noted some significant visual differences in the venting this time. So not unusual and not overly concerning at this point that we haven't had an engine ignition a few minutes past what the prediction was.
They like to keep us on our toes. They definitely like to keep us on our toes.
They do, yes. Yes,
Yeah.
that vent up at the top could have been...
tri-vent.
There we go!
There you go! All right.
Beautiful.
That sounded like it was a full duration, but of course we will wait for a confirmation now that and on the quick look data review that all is indeed. Oh, you can see they did indeed fill the header tanks. Look.
Yeah, it's icy up on the nose cone.
All right. Just out of curiosity, when does the road closure end today?
8 o'clock p.m. Central.
8 local, yeah.
Okay, so there's still 3 hours left. Okay, interesting. I won't venture a guess, but that's interesting because they did fill the header tank. That could be indicative that they're just fueling it to test it. Could be indicative that maybe they want to try to get a static fire from the header tank too, especially if the design has changed. It would make sense that they might want that.
I don't know if chat can hear you right now, Chris.
I thought it was just loud in my headphones.
No, it's loud for everybody. Sorry, I'm working on it. That's what you hear right there.
Look at that.
Dude, the video actually matched the audio. Pretty close.
That's
cool.
Awesome. Well, yes. Yes. Well, how rude of Starship to interrupt me like that with events. Yeah.
Hey,
No.
Dos, I think we're due for another timeline update, by the way.
Oh yes, thank you.
True.
What is it?
I got
Static
you,
fire
don't worry.
complete, right? I mean, it's not detanking yet because it's not a long, like a prolonged depress or anything. But it's static fire complete for sure. Then we'll see if we get a big depress here.
Yeah.
Or what they're gonna do.
And the header tanks were filled, what I was saying, if you couldn't hear over the noise of Starship venting there was it could just be that they were fueling it to fuel it as part of the overall test, you know, for how they'll do it for actual launch day. It could also be indicative that they're also hoping to maybe get a firing here from the header tanks. It could potentially make sense if the header tanks have gone back to autogenous pressurization and everything, that they might want a static fire from those if the design has changed for SN15 onwards. Hence why I was kind of asking how much time was left in this window to see if they might have time to recycle if they wanted to. At 3 hours, if they wanted to static fire from the header tanks, they certainly have time today if they wanted to. But again, that's a spitball sort of what could be left in today. They could be done too. But the biggest thing will be awaiting the confirmation that the Raptors had a successful static fire there, and that all 3 of them are good to go as well.
All right.
And just to be clear, some people in chat asking about temporary flight restrictions. There is no launch possible today. They do not have flight restrictions. They did not evacuate the village. There's not a flight attempt today. This is definitely, if there's any more testing after the static fire, it will just be additional ground testing, if anything. But we did see what looked to be a pretty normal static fire test, so hopefully a sign that SN15 has completed its pre-flight testing and is ready to go. Again, the sign that they are done testing will come from sort of the final depress and then opening up the road. But we're going to stay tuned because, again, we saw the header tank fuel up. Don't know if that's indicative of anything. It could be nothing, but we'll keep an eye out and see just in case.
Yeah, and we're going to keep watching what's going on for things like this because of the unknown nature of the testing. We usually stay around, hanging out and answering questions until the road opens again. And we are probably going to switch out some hosts here. I think that Chris is needing to take off here shortly, if I'm not mistaken. Chris, are you still on?
Yes, I am. And yeah, I do need to take off here, but based on road closure time, I might be back a little bit later if they go long today. But for now, I do need to head out. Yes.
All right. Good deal. Well, folks, the voice you're hearing there, he's signing off for now. Maybe back later. That's Chris Gebhardt, the assistant managing editor for NASASpaceflight. He's in alphabetical order in the drop-down list that I'm supposed to click on to make that appear. Like that. Chris Gebhardt by his first name, apparently. So, Chris, thanks for joining us today, and who knows with SpaceX, maybe we'll see you back this evening.
Maybe we will.
We'll see. All right. Good deal.
All right. Take it easy, guys.
See you,
Yeah,
Chris.
you too.
In
Then I
the
gotta
meantime,
click here, then I gotta click that, and then it takes it off the screen. See? Cool, huh?
Thank you, Michael, or I mean Das.
Wait.
Let's see here. The super chat queue has kind of grown a bit, so I'm going to try and speed run some of these while the Starship does whatever Starship's going to do. Camera Mao, I'm not sure what that name is, but it's asking what are our thoughts on the ABL rocket systems and the Shetland Space Center. You know, if we had Chris B on this stream, I'm sure he had some thoughts. But hey, more rockets and more launch sites, I think we'll be excited about that regardless. So appreciate the support there. Matt with the super chat as well, thank you so much. Newbie asking, do we think that Elon will build his own space station? Thoughts?
I mean, by launching a Starship, sure.
Yeah, a Starship is effectively a space station, isn't it?
There's a lot of room in there, and there's a lot of people who would like to pay to have experiments fly on there, especially since it's so cheap, relatively.
Yeah, I don't know if that joke's getting old or not, but yeah.
Here's a problem though, because a Starship will only have the one docking port. Like the human landing system version only has the one docking port. If you want to make a space station variant, you're gonna have a bunch of docking ports for other vehicles to come up and visit the laboratories. How's that gonna work?
So what they're gonna do is
tile on the side.
They're gonna take a Cybertruck, and they're gonna cut it up, use it to make docking ports, and then put them on the side in like 6x symmetry, like you do in Kerbal. Look, I made that up. Okay, clearly that's not confirmed by SpaceX.
Unless,
I mean, they could put four radial docking ports on a Starship and treat it like a functional cargo block and make a near space station out of Starships.
Oh,
yay nay.
If you put docking ports on the side, you could just dock the sides of Starships to the sides of Starships and just have like a string of Starships lined up like toy soldiers in orbit.
Oh my god, it did block out the sun.
Here's how we really build a Dyson sphere. Starship.
By Starships.
That'd be a net for catching orbital debris.
It really would be. Oh, jeez. Let's see here. Oh my goodness, we've got a familiar face in our Super Chat queue. Everyday Astronaut, we know you.
What?
Tim, how's it going?
Hey, Tim.
He's not allowed to Super Chat.
Saying, let's go SN15. Thanks for the coverage. Everyone be sure and hit like for NSF's awesome coverage. Tim, thank you so much for stopping by. Appreciate it.
What's up, Tim? How you doing today?
Great to have you here, Tim.
And let's see here. Blue Sensei with a $125 super chat. Blue, thank you so much for the very generous support. We appreciate that so much. He says we need a Discord bot that takes Adrian's guesstimates and overlays it on the stream. You know, maybe we should set something like that up. Or maybe we'll just get Adrian on the stream. I like that idea. Blue Sensei, thank you so much for the support. That really allows us to keep doing what we're doing and keep improving our coverage. So we appreciate that. Here's a question from Colton saying, what engines will be used by the HLS Starship for the landing burn? Super Dragos, modded Raptors? Oh yeah, so we're talking about sort of the landing thrusters that are around the side of Starship. They're not, not landing under the main Raptor engines. Don't know exactly what those engines are. I would doubt that they're Super Dragos. I think they're supposed to still use methane and oxygen, so you don't need a separate propulsion system for them. So maybe Raptor derived in some way, but they will likely be much simpler than like a full-blown Raptor engine. It'll be interesting to get some more details on what exactly those engines will be. Likely methane and oxygen fueled, but that's kind of all that we can really speculate at this point. Proper Sensitive asking, is it me or does SN15 look less janky than previous iterations? Looks smoother, shinier, landier maybe? Any thoughts, guys?
SN15 does look like a lot cleaner to me. I saw someone actually commented and sent a question and I had it in the queue. If we look on the danger cam, actually, a zoomed out view, you can see the fins, the aft fins at least, look a lot cleaner and a lot smoother on SN15 compared to before. Because on earlier Starships it'd be very wrinkly, but here you can see they look pretty straight and pretty clean. Maybe it's just lighting, but they do appear to be better looking.
They don't look like quilts.
Yeah, they don't.
In the past, they look like stainless steel quilts. Like you could lay down on them and they would be soft.
Or they just like stapled aluminum foil to them.
Yeah.
Alistair with the super chat saying that the cat's name should be Tex, short for CatX, because SpaceX, CatX. Anyway, did the label in the daily video give the cat a name, or was it just Space Cat or something?
I think it asked for names. Like, what do you think the cat's name should be? Or Jack tweeted that, or so. I think somebody was asking what the cat should be named.
Maybe
Hashtag
just
engagement. Tux.
Tux.
I like Tux. Tuxedo Cat.
But also Tex because it's in Texas, so I don't know.
Oh, Tex maybe.
Tex? A cat named Tex? I don't know. I'm not sold on
Jack
that.
said that he said comment what you think it should be named, but that he votes Starcat.
I
So,
am
there
Team
we go.
Tux.
Team Tux.
Can we get some hashtag Team Tuxes in the chat?
Oh gosh, here we
Oh,
go. Here
what have I
comes the
done?
engagement. Alistair, I appreciate the super chat there. Jack says he'll also accept catship.
Catship. They said ketchup for a second.
Marius with a new membership. Thank you so much for the support. Appreciate it.
Moldy Space Industries just said in the chat, Aries 1 fan cat.
Jeez. All right, well, let's see if the stream crashes in the next couple of minutes. We know it was the Aries 1 talk. I bet it wasn't, though. Great, Aries 1
DOS is
fan
still
club.
deliberate.
Yeah, DOS is just going to crash the stream right now.
No, I'm
Don't
busy.
worry.
Sorry, I'm super busy. I don't mean to be ignoring y'all, but I'm busy. So
No, we're just joking. You're good. Lewis with a super chat question asking, how long did it take to build the tank farm, aka how problematic would it be if Starship crashed onto it? How long did it take to kind of build up the tank farm? I know they kind of did it in stages, so it's not really a one-to-one comparison, but...
Yeah, it was built out during 2019, and I believe like towards the end of 2018 as well. That was for Starhopper, so it was very basic. Things were just sitting on concrete bricks. But now it's a little bit better. So it's been probably about like 6 months to get it ready for Starhopper, and they've been upgrading it ever since. The recondenser and everything now.
Matthew with Surges says thanks for the hard work. Matthew, we appreciate the support. A question here, what are the limiting factors for propellant loading speed? So there are a couple. There's the limits as far as how quickly propellant can actually go through the tank, so just literally the diameter of the valves and the piping that goes up to Starship. There might also be some limiting factors as to how quickly the temperature of the tanks can change without having any sort of problems there. When you're pumping super cold propellant into the tanks, the metal will actually shrink a little bit due to the temperature change, and if that happens too rapidly, it can cause problems. As long as you do it gradually, the system is designed to account for that. But that might be another limiting factor. I don't know, Ian, any others that you can think of?
Not really, honestly. I think it's just a matter of how much they're comfortable with and what they think the systems can handle. Because
Gotcha.
we've seen... I was going to say, we've seen when SpaceX could sort of fly too close to the sun, you get an almost 6 sort of situation. And while that was just an issue that they then resolved, and now they've even further accelerated the fueling times, it shows you got to be careful and take it step by step. You can't be crazy fast with changing your fuel loading times, because fuel is the one thing, or one of the few things where you cannot mess up on, or you will have a very bad day.
Absolutely. Really quick, we have got a new daily video that has just gone up on the NASASpaceflight YouTube channel. I'm being asked to promote the new video regarding some updates on the launch tower and other things around Boca Chica. The daily footage that we get from Mary at Boca Chica Gal is up on the NASASpaceflight channel. So feel free to check that out for the latest from Boca Chica. Of course, we'll also have another video regarding the static fire test and any other testing that gets done today, later today likely, and then daily updates as always on production site activity and stuff like that. So go ahead and check it out at the NASA Spaceflight YouTube channel to see another daily video that has just gone up on the channel.
excellent. And so what I was busy on while we also have that video, I've got the replay available because we were wondering if we couldn't see the independent firings of the engines. So this is the replay. This is the replay of the static fire, and I'm going to go frame by frame here. The first try. I actually practiced this first. Let's see here. Stand by. It's about 10 seconds.
Need some more practice on your overlay because the overlay says Starship SN15 had a hard landing. I think that was.
Why does it say that? I don't think that I can edit that actually.
I was just about to message DOS. I was like,
yeah, I can't.
late.
I can't edit that. I just chose the one that says replay, but apparently that is not the replay that we want.
Like, hey,
the
thanks.
replay is correct. Well, y'all, this is
Yeah.
a replay. All right, I'm just going to take the tag off the screen. I just chose the thing that said replay. All right, it's a replay. Trust me. All right. So let me see if I can get this timed correctly. You can actually see right in this area when it starts to go. Okay, here it goes. So right in here, you can actually see it start to, things start to come out the bottom. And again, this is a replay. That's why we can do next frame, as it clearly says in the upper right-hand corner. Oops. Well. I'm literally just stepping it frame at a time. Right there.
We go.
So,
there's one engine.
One engine. One frame, 2 frames. Look at that. Single engine on. 3 frames, 4 frames, 5, 2 engines.
There's the second. Wow. And the third one should be in the middle of those two, I think, if I'm looking at this correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get the dust kicked up, so you can't really see, but you can really see when it gets brighter again. There's the third engine.
Third engine. Wow, look at that. That is very cool.
So we can count the frames. This is 30 FPS, so we can count the frames in between engine firings there.
It was like 3 frames between each of them, right?
You're killing me, VLC. Sorry. So see if you can see it in real time. This is in real time this time. And it's about 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3. I'm not going to count. I'll get it wrong. Would have been close. That's real time.
If you're really looking for it, you can kind of tell.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to see framing by framing it. But so if it's about 3 frames between each ignition, that can... Oh god, hold on. You said it was 60 FPS or 30 FPS?
This is 30. This one's 30 right now.
So a 30th of a second, so a 10th of a second between each ignition. About.
About, based on what we saw there, yeah.
Interesting. That is very cool to see.
Actually, yeah, I don't think that... Oh, that doesn't have the audio in it. The audio is recorded, so we have to get the audio from a separate source because it's not part of that video feed. It's a separate dedicated audio source. So we can also do that. We'll have that audio available for the daily video, or the recap video, or whatever is the right way to say that.
George with the super chat, thank you so much for the support. Appreciate it. And Grayson saying, here's some money for the awesome new camera view. I'm assuming that's referring to Danger Cam, one of our...
Danger Cam.
Yeah, so appreciate the support there, Grayson.
This is Danger Cam, and it's actually down a solar panel. It took a hit when SN11 came down, and one of the solar panels got destroyed, so we've pulled the solar panel, and it is operating on limited, or not limited, it's still plenty, but it called it Danger Cam because it was right there in the danger zone. And it did take a little bit of danger damage, I guess, during the SN11 extravaganza. I'm wondering if we look over this way. Here's Mary's camera. I don't see the ring of ice up on the header tank anymore.
Nope. And there's no rings either on either of the tanks.
Yeah.
Looks like they're mostly detanked. If they lost the header tank, they're definitely doing detanking.
Yeah. That's interesting, because we didn't see a big depress. Jack!
Hey, did I hear you say SN11?
Yeah, what did I say?
Said SN11 rather...
Wait, that's the right thing to say, right? I think that was right.
For very... Yes.
I think Jack is telling us about how he didn't see SN11 go. We might have just roboted Jack there a little bit. But Jack was down there in an attempt to see SN11, and it just did not work out because they launched in a fog bank. So...
But I'm going to keep going through some super chats and stuff like that. Pal saying that the cat is named Captain Maracas. Is that like an early SpaceX reference joke? Am I getting that?
Maybe.
Yeah, appreciate the support there.
If the cat wears a sombrero, then I'd buy
yeah,
that.
there you go. Joe with the new membership, thank you so much. Arman saying go SN15 with the super chat. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Christian Brown with a super chat. Thank you everyone so much for all of the support. We really appreciate it. We got a question here from Bilbo the Great asking, when do we think that the orbital launch pad will be completed? Ian, want to take that one?
Sure. So the orbital launch pad, they're very far into work on the pad. They did pause it around the time of SN8 or so, but now they've resumed it. You can see the integration tower actually on one of our cameras. You can see it on the right side. So they are building the integration tower. They are working on the tank farm, and they are working on the actual pedestal itself to mount the Super Heavy on. So by that timeline and by how far along they are right now, I would assume maybe June they could have it ready. Maybe very late May they could have it ready to do just basic tanking tests. Oh, there we go. Beautiful shot. And
if you telegraph that a little bit better, I can do it when you're talking about it. Just drag it out a little bit so I can listen to you talking about the integration tower and then scramble to bring up the video.
Oh, what a coincidence. We got an orbital launch site view here. And you can see the 2 GSE tanks on the right. Those will be storing propellants for Starship. But you can see there's a lot of progress already. And I haven't seen this camera view before, so this is very impressive to me, too, to see it now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'd say probably June they'd probably be ready to do tank tests. What do you think, Thomas?
June for first orbital launch site kind of activity as far as vehicles go? Is that what we're thinking?
I'm thinking around June for basic activation to do at least cryoproofing with BN2.
I think that's a good no earlier than target. I think May seems a little aspirational. June could be the first kind of time frame we start to see vehicles show up at the orbital launch site. But again, it's hard to tell. I mean, SpaceX has some ambitious timelines, and they seem to be at least making very good progress. So depending on how much functionality they need for the first tests, yeah, June timeframe maybe, but we'll have to wait and see. It's such an unprecedented kind of timeline that they're aiming for. It's hard to speculate whether they'll hit it or not.
And for those who are unaware as well, the top of the orbital launch pad, so you can see the 6 pedestals right there in the center for the orbital launch pad. They're the slanted white tubes in the center. They're actually building the launch mount itself at the production site. It's just pretty much a large beefed up ring that they will place on top of there. And there we go, we're gonna get a zoomed in shot of the pedestal.
Yeah, but I gotta manually focus it. Sorry, I'm not supposed to do this live on the stream, but you know,
you're
what
good.
Do?
Hey, we're gonna learn. But they will place the pedestal on top of the actual mounts, and from there they will have a mostly complete question mark orbital launch mount. And then from there it's just getting the ground support equipment, getting the tanks and the integration tower all ready to support super heavy testing.
And you can hear that those ventings happening where there's just pressure releases, but they don't seem to be coming from Starship that I've been able to notice here. So I hear those happening. That is live audio from right here at this camera spot. But I've been watching to see if we're missing like a big vent or something while we're looking at the other stuff. So excellent.
We got a super chat question here from Nathan asking, any idea why the primary road closure is for Tuesday and the secondary for Wednesday, yet the TFR is for Wednesday? Wouldn't it usually be a primary closure for a flight? Generally speaking, the primary and secondary connections to the road closures are just the batch of closures that they file at any one time. The one that happens first is the primary, and the others are the secondary. It doesn't really correlate to whatever they're doing during those actual testing windows. It's kind of a weird, it's just, basically don't read too much into what's a primary and what's a secondary window.
And a question from Connor asking, could we see a hydrogen lunar Starship? That's a good question because we did discuss earlier the benefits, we discussed loosely the benefits of hydrogen versus methane versus kerosene as a fuel. So hydrogen is very efficient, especially in a vacuum, and the moon's a vacuum, so hydrogen would seem like a good choice to have an efficient, good performing vehicle. But with Starship, if you had to change the fuel to hydrogen, you would have to do insane amounts of rework on the Raptor engine, because to change propellant on an engine would need a complete redesign, because you have to deal with different densities, different temperatures, just different flow of the fuel in general. Hydrogen is much, much lighter than methane and much less dense. So you need larger pipes to get similar amounts into the engine. You need to change the combustion chamber and nozzle to deal with the different densities of and temperatures of the exhaust gas to better get the most efficiency you possibly could out of it. So you really don't want to change the fuel of a rocket, especially this far into development. And Raptor did actually start off as a hydrogen engine, but it did change to methane because that would be slightly easier to make on Mars, using the carbon dioxide and water found at Mars. So could we see a hydrogen lunar Starship? Probably not. And another question here from Paige, asking when Dragon is docked to the International Space Station, how does the fuel needed for burns and stuff not burn off, like during a 6-month mission? So that's a good question. So Crew Dragon actually uses hypergolic fuels, I believe nitrogen tetroxide and monomethyl hydrazine. And the good thing about those two fuels is you can store them at room temperature, and they will really not react too much on their own. So as long as you keep them apart, and as long as you keep them sealed and at a constant pressure and temperature, you can keep them not necessarily indefinitely, but you can keep them fueled in a spacecraft for a long amount of time. So the fuel doesn't burn off because it's fine being at a relatively ambient temperature. And a question here from Patrick asking, is SpaceX planning on cryoproofing the GSE tanks? So that's a good question. We actually talked about that a few streams ago. I am actually not sure about that. So cryoproof testing, they would load it with liquid nitrogen. I would guess they might want to, just to make sure that there's no leaks or anything, especially when you're having to load them with methane and liquid oxygen for long amounts of time. So I would assume we'd see something along the lines of cryoproofing. And Leonard here asks, what Starship serial number do you think will be the first to have a full heat shield? I'm not sure about you guys, but I think SN20, honestly. The first Starship that's expected to go to orbit, since it's likely that SN18 and SN19 may not end up actually flying, and 16 and 17 seem to have a large heat shield, but we haven't seen any full heat shields, so I would assume SN20, since that's the one going to orbit. And a question here from Luke asking, why do the static fires only last a few seconds? They only last a few seconds because it's really all that they need. And also there's the issue of you are blasting rocket engine exhaust onto the launch pad, and doing that for extended periods of time can really wear away and damage the launch pad. So you don't really get extra benefits out of firing for longer than a few seconds. And also you have the major downside of damaging your launch pad. So that's why they're very short. And it's the same with Falcon 9 as well.
All right, and once again, we're continuing to shuffle our hosts around here. I think that Thomas is going to have to step out for a while here with some other stuff going on. With that pesky, actual college education he's getting or whatever. Thomas, you getting ready to head out?
Yeah, I'm going to step off for a little bit. I might be able to come back later, but we're going to keep rotating our host here as we cover 8 billion different space-related things going on today. But yeah, Thomas, we're going to sign off for a little bit. Ian and Das continue our Starship SN15 coverage as they do some testing during today's window. So
absolutely,
Sounds
Thomas.
Good.
Thanks so much for joining us here today. That is, of course, Thomas Berghart, live stream host extraordinaire, editor, just person with NASASpaceflight. We'll just keep it nice and generic there because everybody does so many different things, and his name starts with a T right there so that you can hit display on screen like that. It's going to display. It's going to display eventually, maybe. Anyways, Thomas, thanks. You're free to go.
No problem. See you guys.
See you, Thomas. Have a good one.
There it is. Okay.
And we're going to go through some super chats here. Aaron, $20 super chat. Thank you very much, saying boom, 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 go the Raptors. And yeah, you could really hear the separate audio of each individual Raptor firing, which I think is so cool to hear the staggered start. So thank you very much for the donation, Aaron. And we also have a membership here from Chaz W. Thank you very much for the membership. We really appreciate the support. Aviation Zach saying happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, Zach. Hope it's been a good one so far. Why does Starship land vertically, and how do the astronauts get out on Mars missions? Why not land Starship like a VTOL? So really landing it vertically is the best because it would be a pain to land it on its side, and also how would you take off when it's on its side? You would need separate landing engines, and that's just added mass, added complexity of having to land on your side. You already have the engines on the bottom, so it's relatively easier to just land on the bottom of the vehicle and have your landing legs inside the engine skirt, because also you need to have landing legs on the outside of your vehicle, which would make heat shielding and aerodynamics a whole mess there. So astronauts will be leaving Starship using an elevator, coming out at the top and going down to the bottom. It'll be about a, I guess, 30, maybe 35 meter elevator ride, so Hope you don't forget anything.
Yeah.
that wouldn't be fun.
You can send the elevator back up to get it again.
Yeah, I hope it's a fast elevator.
On the moon? You run the risk of, you know how you ever been in an elevator, right? And you wait until it's going to stop at your floor, and then you jump at just the right. Wow.
Someone's angry.
Well, there you go. That looks like a double depressed vent. Look at that.
Yep.
Interesting.
We'll have to see how long this is.
I'm working on it here. Sorry. There we go. That's what I was trying to do.
There we go.
And Chet, how loud is that? I mean, I know that is venting directly in your ears. Now for audio like this, do we need to pull that down a little bit, or is that venting noise good? Is that blowing you out? Like, what do y'all prefer for the venting there? Sounds like a jet. It's reasonably loud. Well, of course, then I get some hiccups in the audio stream when I start to mess with it, so I'm going to pull it down just a little bit like that. That's what we'll do. Ah, cool. Ian, yeah, keep on going. I think we're good now.
All right, sounds good. It's a lot quieter here on my end, too.
Yeah.
So we have a new membership here from Moldy Space Industries. Thank you very much for the support. I always like your little jokes in the chat. And from Dog Cruise, I believe, $10 super chat for the Danger Cam. Thank you very much for the support. And from Andre as well, saying thank you very much for everything you do. Recently started a space community, rolling out to YouTube soon. So thank you very much for the support, Andre. And Leo here saying SN15 didn't appear to have as much frost buildup on the lower section. What's the reason for that? Thanks for everything. So thanks, Leo, for the support. So yeah, we did not see much frost actually build up on the lower section. I believe, DOS, did you notice any condensation on Starship? It seemed like there was a little bit.
I saw a little bit maybe, but we didn't get a bunch of persistent frost. So
yeah,
if that's the case, I think that means that they might not have really filled up those tanks, you know?
Yep, they may have just filled up a small part of the bulkhead. So yeah, it seemed like they may have not filled it up as much. Maybe they did a header tank static fire. We really don't know exactly. Yeah. But yeah, it definitely did seem like a lower fuel, a lower propellant load than normal.
I agree.
From Richard, I believe $5 super chat. I believe he misspelled saying Astro Cat. But thank you very much, Richard. And yes, as a cat lover myself, I love to see a little space cat there at the production site. And 2 super chats here from Baba. Thank you very much. Saying hello from France. Thank you very much for the support. We really appreciate it. I believe that was €7 overall. Thank you very much. And from Matt here with a £4.99 super chat, saying, how will they test catching Starship without risking destroying the launch tower? Now, that's a good question, because having to catch something with a launch tower, that is a lot of room for failure, both in terms of having an engine issue, a guidance issue, some other issue like that, because we've seen with Falcon 9 plenty of issues come up that led to either a failed landing or a just slightly off landing. And with being catched by a tower, you need to be very precise. So if there's any bit of a guidance issue, you're not getting your booster back. And yes, there would probably be significant damage to the tower, but it seems like they're really beefing it up, so maybe it's built to survive an explosion or two, but I don't know. That's really a good question. How would they test catching Starship booster? I guess really the best way to test it is just go for it.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of thing that has a lot of risk, especially with all the orbital launch tank farm right there next to the tower. Like, if the tower was off on itself, like over in the middle of nowhere, and it's just the tower there, that'd be one thing, but there's a lot of infrastructure around there. So it will be very interesting to see what they actually try with catching Starship via a tower.
Yeah, agreed. That'll be interesting to see whatever happens from the first landing, yeah. I think.
Yep, but I completely agree with you. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. Like, are they ever going to try to land a booster without the tower? Are they going to just dump one in the ocean? Do you think that getting a Starship to orbit is more important than catching a booster? So would they try to send a Starship to orbit knowing that they weren't quite ready to catch the booster? I wonder if they would wait.
Ah, that is a fair question. I could absolutely see them doing an ocean landing, like with how they do with Falcon 9, just to make sure everything works, and then just expending it out there, letting it fall over and explode.
Yeah.
I could see that happening because, yeah, getting to orbit seems more important than getting a booster back. And even if landing on the ocean could still get you a lot of data about you could establish a center point, like with GPS or something, and try to get it as close as possible. You could test engine reignition after it goes through reentry. There's a lot of good data you can get from there.
Yeah.
So I could see them for maybe at least the SN20 and BN3 run, and maybe afterwards for a little bit doing ocean landings. But yeah, it's so unprecedented, everything about Starship. You really can't predict anything.
I'd love to see like a virtual tower someplace safe and try to land close to this virtual tower, like a tower that doesn't exist, but they've got it pinned out like, yes, the tower is right here. Let's see if we can get the Starship to where that tower that doesn't exist could catch it before you try it with the real tower. I know they're building that thing fast, but I don't think that they want to knock that tower over because it, tries to catch a Starship and gets hit in the face like a little leaguer trying to catch a pop fly out of the sun.
Yeah.
So
I've actually go ahead.
No, I don't know. I wonder what they're going to do with that,
Yeah. I was actually thinking the other day, because the orbital tower has been going up very quickly, I'm wondering if they're making it like purposefully simple, so in case they do lose it, it wouldn't take forever to rebuild.
They just have like 3 extra towers laying on the ground next to it, and it's like, well, that one's toast. Put another one up, and they just go and stack another one up.
I mean, they did have a spare launch mount that came in handy after SN4, so
yeah.
They have built up a little production site at the gas well site too to make tower segments, so maybe.
Yeah,
but
I
anyway,
don't know. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Let's put it that way, and we'll be here to see it. That's for sure.
Absolutely, and I cannot wait for the day when we see something happen with the tower. I'll just say.
Yeah. Again, y'all, a really quick, just an update on where we're at. We did see a successful static fire a while ago, actually, almost 40 minutes ago now, and we've seen a couple of depress events. We haven't seen a massive depress. Does that mean that they didn't fill the tanks all the way and they're done? Does that mean that there's some possibility to do something else here today? Typically, because we don't know exactly what they're trying, we'll stay live until the road opens. So right now, Ian and I are hanging out here with you. We don't know for sure that another test is going to happen, but until they open that road, we're just sort of hanging out, reading super chats, answering questions, reading some chat, that sort of stuff. That is the status update of where we are right now. So back to you, Ian.
Sounds good. And we have a super chat here from 8th, I believe. €5. Greetings from Chios, Greece. Greetings, and thank you very much for the support. And from Mike here, actually asking about the tower with a $4.99 super chat. Stuck here trying to figure out how they will test the catch. If they mess up once, that can be really bad for the launch catch tower. And yeah, we just discussed this actually a few seconds ago. But yeah, I don't know how they could test it. Maybe just cart a Starship or a big tank sec. Maybe just cart BN2 next to the tower and test grabbing it. I don't know. You can't really test that without a pressurized vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, so I think certainly you have to have some sort of fit checks or something where you have a Starship that's a Starship like would be coming, or sorry, not a Starship, a BN, like a booster, there, and you have to move the arms around like you're going to try to catch it, and I don't, or they have to go up and down or something like that to help absorb some of the motion. I don't know. I have no clue what Elon is going to draw on a napkin next time he goes to dinner and then come back waving in the faces of the SpaceX engineers who have to actually make this stuff happen. Who knows what's going to happen there, so we'll see.
Yeah. And from Musical Wolves here with a $2 super chat, get an SN11 was here sticker. I think that'd be pretty good to put on the solar panels. And from Jim here, a new membership. Thank you very much, Jim, for the support. We really appreciate it. And Firecrackers here, $5 super chat, watching your new video on my second monitor and the live stream on my first. It sounds like a good day to me. I don't know about you, Das.
Excellent. That's not a bad plan at all. I mean, you can't have too many monitors until it's time to move. Then you can have too many monitors because they're a pain to pack up. But while you're sitting at your desk, it's nice to have real estate.
Yep, and I recently got a second monitor. Recently, as in like a year ago, and it is a night and day difference. So much better.
Excellent.
Because I have the question queue up on my main monitor and Discord open on my right monitor, and it's just so convenient. And from Brandon S here, the $3 super chat, could we get a 24-hour feed of Danger Cam up and running? That would be great to have, but they really burn the data, so maybe potentially in the future, but as of right now, I don't think so. What do you think, Das?
Yeah, right now we're focused on deploying all of these cool camera angles that we can use for not curated broadcast, right? Where it's like, we're here, we're explaining what's going on. We don't just leave it running 24/7. We don't even do a thing where it's like, here's all of our camera views as a separate broadcast, because we're putting the entire experience together. Like, we're answering questions, we're saying what's going on, we're having some fun, we're joking around and that sort of stuff. So right now we do have Fleet Cam, which is our 24/7 live camera that's been going since September is when I installed it. And if we wanted to go 24/7, we certainly could. But right now we're focusing on these curated live experience events. I don't know, I just made all that stuff up, but you get the point.
Yep, and from Future Martian 97 here, a $10 super chat. That's a familiar name right there. Thank you very much, Future Martian, for all the support you've given us. And Shia here, £5 super chat. Could you look back in the static fire at slow motion? And I think we already solved that for you, Shia. You can go back it was about 15-20 minutes, I believe. We did a nice analysis, frame by frame, of the static fire. New membership here from Curveless. Thank you very much. Appreciate the support. And from Evend, saying the cat should be called Felicette 2 after the first and only cat in space. I actually kind of like that, because Felicette, I believe, was sent into space by France to test how an animal would react in zero gravity. So I think that would be a nice little reference. And the cat kind of does actually remind me of Felicette a little bit. I believe Felicette was a tuxedo cat. So that's interesting to see. And from Morgan here, asking if SN15 is successful, what will be done with it? I assume they would just put it on a display stand, because they have so many starships coming down the pipe, they don't really need to worry about reflying them. I think they'll just put it on a display stand, say we're proud of this, and move on to SN16 or whatever's up next. But I definitely think they'll make it into a sort of monument to celebrate the fact that they landed a starship. And Jerwa here with the $7.50 super chat. Awesome coverage as always. Thank you very much, Jerwa. We really appreciate it. And
yeah, how's it going, Jerwa? Thanks.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. So for Terry, $20 super chat. Let's see. Astronaut is a Greek word meaning star sailor. With starships in Starbase, why doesn't Elon use star sailors? I think it's just because tradition. Astronaut has been a word traditionally used to describe people going into space. So I personally think astronaut sounds cooler than just star sailor. But I don't know. That's just personally me. I'm a guy who likes a bit of tradition. So
yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think we're going to have to figure out, if you take a suborbital flight on Starship, do you get astronaut wings? Like, you're going to Tokyo, you're not going to the space station or anything like that. You're just going to Tokyo, and you take that flight on Starship suborbital. You should get something because you're brave if you get on Starship in the first place for that suborbital flight. But so we're going to have to all agree on some naming conventions, I think.
I would say no, in my opinion. That's my personal take.
Are those thruster firings?
Whoa. Yep. Well, that's cool. They're testing the nose cone thrusters.
And down at the bottom, too.
Yep, there we go. That's cool to see.
You see a really quick spurt. There was one down at the bottom as well. We don't know if that's going to continue. That got our attention.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere. That sounded like a very quick event. I was like, what was that?
Yeah, this is why we stay live for stuff like this, because you never know what's going to happen. So
yeah, exactly. On from Cosmos here, a $5 super chat. They should have the cat launched to the moon. Oh no. I mean, maybe someday when we have a colony. Oh.
You can see that things aren't synchronized right now. that last one is in the opposite direction. That's why you don't see it.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, I know how to synchronize the audio, but I'm not going to do it so we don't miss any of the audio. That was a longer one.
Oh yeah, they are getting longer.
It's cool. You can sort of watch it on the left side, then watch it on the right side, because the two cameras are like about a second apart, it looks like. They are still testing those things. And they were going in a pattern. Did you see that? It was like top starboard side, top dorsal side, top port side, I guess was the other one, then the bottom, and they sort of went around the horn, it looked like. That was cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Very cool. You do want to make sure that those are working for that flip.
And that's good to know that the audio feed got a little desynchronized there. Not something that's difficult for me to fix when it happens. So we will want to be refreshing that on a regular basis. We're going to pull that audio real quick, just restart it so it should resynchronize there. Try the horn. All right, right blinker, turn in your left blinker, try the horn, tap the brakes for me.
Oh, it sounds like hooking up a trailer.
They're doing their Starship state inspection right now.
Gives me memories of having to hook up the camper with the car. All right, test the left blinker, right blinker, make sure you have the electrical connections, brake lights.
The thrusters just said much wow in Morse code. Nice. And we completely forgot. It's like, yeah, they catch the launch to the moon. Nice.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And from Armin here asking, how will they refuel the moon Starship? Will they just send tankers to the moon? That's a good question. I don't think we've actually had a solid answer on that. We do know that obviously they'll need to refuel it. I believe I've heard somewhere that they'll bring it back to some sort of Earth orbit to refuel it. But that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, actually.
Yeah, I don't think we've got the specifics on exactly what they're going to do there. Does it have enough Delta V? There should be loads for Starship where you take X amount of kilograms down to the surface of the moon, you come back with X amount of kilograms, and you have this much Delta V left over. And with the size of Starship and just how much fuel it carries, there's bound to be lunar payloads, like down and up, that still allow you to get back home and recapture. There's bound to be something like that. We haven't heard specifically what the plans for Lunar Starship are. Do the tankers have to tank on out to the moon and then they refuel it there, or can Lunar Starship actually make it back home? I think we're still standing by for more information on SpaceX there, but there's a couple different options the way they could do that. I like this. Tim said, watch, listen. That's oddly satisfying. Tim, that's our new proprietary instant replay technology. Like something happens on one camera and then we instant replay it 1 second later on the other camera side by side. I worked on that forever. It's not just that the cameras aren't in sync. And then the audio is just, that's an added bonus. It's audio replay. I'm trying to improve the the experience there.
You get to experience it visually, then you experience it audio afterwards.
The desync instant replay. Nice.
And from Mary Weaver here, has there been an FAA notice about a launch this week from Starship? I believe we have seen TFR's temporary flight restrictions posted for Wednesday and Thursday, I believe, of this week? Question mark? I think that we've seen temporary flight restrictions, but I don't think we've had the FAA clear it for launch. I believe the static fire is one of the last milestones before the FAA can even possibly approve Starship for launch. So we'll just have to wait over the next few hours, next few days, see what the FAA have to say about this. From Prayson, ask with a $5 Canadian super chat, saying hello from Toronto. Hello, you're about 6 hours north of me. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for the support. And Robert here with a $100 super chat. Thank you very much, Robert. That's amazing. Saying, what do you think the nose cone did to deserve being put in nose cone jail? And motivation for SN15 not to be put in jail too. Oh, I didn't think about it that way. Yeah, maybe it'll be like if SN15 doesn't land, they put the remains of it in jail. Oof. I would say the nose cone, what it did to get in jail was being an older design. That's my guess. You gotta get with the times.
Jail.
But thank you very much, Robert. Thank you for the support. And Sheldon here with the membership. Thank you very much, Sheldon. Really appreciate that. And Mike here with a $10 super chat. Thanks for the portal you're giving us to watch this amazing project. Great to have you here, Mike. We're proud to be here. Thank you very much for the support. And $5 here from Adam. For testing the launch tower, they could use one of the large cranes to simulate a landing with something like an empty BN-2. That actually, I thought of that earlier, but you would want to have something pressurized to sort of latch onto, because if you latch onto an empty vehicle, you'll just crush it like a soda can. So they'd probably want to pressurize it somehow, which would be very difficult on a crane in midair, unless you ran the fuel line to it, but that sounds very complicated. But who knows, maybe they could just turn around and do it. I don't know. But I think that sounds kind of unlikely, actually, the more that I think about it.
Yeah, and I see the people talking about the audio there. We may need to reset something or something along that. So we're working on it. Is it our voices that sound weird? A lot of people are saying audio's fine, and then other people are saying audio's not fine. So
I just hopped on, I muted Discord and played the music, the YouTube audio, and it sounds like a sort of stuttering, like an engine sound. Like a sort of...
Interesting. My wife is watching downstairs, and she says the audio is fine for her.
Very strange.
I'll recycle that really quickly and see if we can fix that. Let me know. See, look, tons of people are saying the audio is fine, and then some people are saying that audio is not fine. That is actually really weird. But we can we'll recycle some stuff and see if it goes away. Y'all let me know if it goes away, okay? Keep talking so they don't hear the audio, Ian.
Okay, I am, oh yeah, sorry about that. Here, I'm gonna actually check YouTube here. Alright, yeah, the audio's still coming in choppy. It sounds like a stutter, yeah, it's nothing to do with our voices, it's just probably a glitch maybe on the ambient.
Talk about the audio, jeez, talk about something else. They don't think about the audio.
You see a beautiful blue, cloudy sky there. But for anyone just joining in, we're looking here at Starship SN15 on Pad A at Boca Chica. It just completed what seems to be a pretty good static fire test. They loaded the vehicle partially with propellants, seemed to ignite all 3 engines, and it looked to be a good duration burn. They've now depressurized the vehicle, at least in some fashion, and it seems like they've detanked it as well. So we're just sitting here waiting to see if anything else will happen, if they'll go maybe again for a second time, or anything like that. So we're just waiting here, giving a bit of a discussion, actually, about Starship's future, Lunar Starship, and even the Delta IV Heavy launch today, actually. So if you have any questions related to Starship, Lunar Starship, the Human Landing System, or even Delta IV Heavy, throw them in the chat and we'll try to answer them. We had a super chat here from Kyle, saying the wife and I got up at 12:30 to watch Crew 2 with y'all. Good to hear. Thank you very much, Kyle. And I got up early to watch Crew 2 myself, and I actually managed to see the second stage firing from my backyard, which was pretty cool to see. And it sounds like we got the audio fixed, so thank you everyone for being patient with us there.
Okay, whatever, chat. Y'all, yeah, okay, sure.
Yep, I just checked it. It sounds good.
Glad we fixed it.
But anyway, back to the super chats. We have a new membership from Gwen. Thank you very much for the support. Really appreciate that. And from Bobby here, asking how will the Lunar Starship refuel in lunar orbit? So we discussed this a bit before. They will need to either bring it back to Earth or bring tankers to lunar orbit. So it's one of those 2 options, and we are not sure exactly which one yet, but using some combination of tankers in some kind of orbit is the best that I can give to you. Ned M membership here. Thank you very much, Ned. Really appreciate the support there. And James here saying, giving an idea of how to improve the landing legs. Jack screw style. They can be hollow and reinforced to double as COPV tanks. That's an interesting idea. I don't really see the benefit in using them as COPV tanks, but a jack screw style could work as long as they deploy it extremely quickly, but it seems like SpaceX really likes a sort of drop-down landing leg design because that's simpler overall, but they still have not finalized a landing leg design for Starship, so we could see really anything for both Lunar Starship and Martian Starship. But thank you very much for the support, though, James. And we had a $15 super chat here saying, SpaceX and Elon inspired me so much to give you hope for humanity. How might someone donate to the colonization effort? I don't believe there's any way to donate. I think the only way to really support SpaceX would be to buy merch or with Starlink, because they are a private company and they do their own finances, so I don't see why they would need donations at the moment. But yeah, I guess that's the best way that you can go and support them.
At some point, Elon's going to be asking you to donate yourself to the Mars colony.
Oh, I guess so, yeah, with his the paid labor and all that. That's another can of worms there.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms.
Yep, we will move on from that. And dollar super chat here from Doc Rocks. Thank you very much for that. And from Craig here as well, saying SpaceX could test catching boosters with their ocean-going platforms. That is true. They could do attempting landings or things like that using Phobos or Deimos, because you don't need to worry about ruining your entire launch pad, instead just damaging a rig on sea, which is actually the same reason why SpaceX did the initial Falcon 9 landings on barges out in the ocean. So yeah, that'd be very interesting to see if they do use Phobos and Deimos for the initial landings. And a question here in chat from Thendis asking, are Boca Chica SpaceX facilities at risk of damage from hurricanes? And yes, because they are actually right on the east coast of Texas. There was actually a risk, I believe it was called Hurricane Hannah, back in, I believe it was 2020 maybe, where there was significant flooding and wind actually, but nothing severe from that hurricane. So yes, they are very much at risk from hurricanes. And we are actually just getting into hurricane season right now. For the Atlantic Ocean, so they'll need to watch out and hunker down if anything's coming. And a question here from Kaziki asking, do you think Starship will allow us to build larger ships in space to go to and from other planets? I could see that actually. In-space assembly has been studied for a long time, both on the space shuttle, the space station with inflatable habitats. So I could see Starship launching components to build larger ships, but I don't think we could really see Starships docking together anytime soon to make a larger ship. I could see them bringing up components, but not necessarily combining Starships together.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you could potentially dock them tail to tail. That's for fuel transfer. You got the crew nose where we've seen them sort of docking things to the nose of Starship, but I don't see, I haven't even seen any like renderings of structure where it's like, here's a space station made of 4 starships, you know? Certainly possible, but I don't think we've seen that happen yet. Maybe a cargo starship in the alligator mouth takes up some sort of node that 4 other starships can dock to or something like that, you know what I mean? So you don't change the design of the starship, but you just take a piece of cargo that allows them to dock together. That's what I would do in Kerbal.
Yeah, and yeah, I think the possibility of docking starships together would be very cool to make a sort of very large space station, but also at the same time, Starship itself is so large, I don't know what you really need that extra space for at least for low Earth orbit or near Earth activities. Near a $5 super chat from Ned asking, I don't know what that is. Michelson-Morley experiment? Anyone have any idea what that means?
I'm not sure. My Google foo is strong though, but it sounds familiar. Oh no,
I'm
not that
looking
one.
this up right now. It's
yeah.
actually...
Something about the other.
Oh, so some way to find out what causes light waves?
Yeah.
I guess that could. There is definitely a lot of possibility of Starship to really advance scientific knowledge, because we've seen with things just like space telescopes, LUFOIR, which is personally one of my favorite space telescope concepts out there, which is essentially a very large version of the James Webb Space Telescope, but in visible light. And Starship and SLS Block 2 are the only 2 rockets capable of lifting LUFOIR to orbit. And SLS Block 2, I'm not going to say it's extremely likely to fly, Yeah, I'll leave that there. But Starship would absolutely be able to really expand scientific knowledge by lifting a larger space telescope, by taking materials to a space station, to the lunar surface. Just the amount of scientific data that it will enable will be amazing. It could carry several weather satellites in one go. It can carry several CubeSats in one go. I don't even know what else to think of, but it's going to definitely have a new industry in itself, because there's nothing out there that needs the cargo capacity that Starship can offer right now. But I think we'll start to see mission ideas such as planetary missions that can use Starship's capabilities, and I don't even know what that'll look like, but it'll be amazing to see what data we'll be able to get out of because of Starship's lift capability.
Yeah, just the ability to take more mass into orbit opens up a lot of different things. Because so many times your spacecraft or your science experiment or your mission or whatever is volume constrained because of the size of the fairing, or it's mass constrained because of how much mass the rocket can take into whatever orbit or trajectory you want to be on. And Starships can definitely open up a lot of new opportunity there. That's for sure. Ian, I know that I didn't have you here all evening. Are we coming up on the point where you're going to have to take off?
I can stay a few more minutes, if that sounds good.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't keeping you over, because I know you had some other stuff scheduled too this evening.
Yep. I don't have a hard deadline, but just sort of around now. A question here from Tannen asking, do you think we could see an orbital launch before July? Now, that's a really good question, because we have heard that SpaceX is targeting July 1st. For an orbital flight of Starship and Super Heavy, which when I first heard about that, I said absolutely not. But now that we're seeing the orbital launch pad being built out, Super Heavy's being built, Starship production and Starship testing go along at a faster and faster pace, I am thinking July might have a chance. It might have a chance to have a chance. But before July, I don't really see a chance before July. Honestly, I would say maybe August, realistically at the earliest. But I definitely think this summer we could see a orbital Starship flight.
Gotcha.
And a question here from Jack asking, when do you think BN2 will be able to roll out? So BN2 will be the second Super Heavy booster. They have not begun stacking of BN2 as far as I'm aware. They're currently working on finishing up scrapping of Super Heavy BN1. So we should see BN2 stacking start sometime, I would assume, in the next 2 weeks, I would have to guess. But I would say rollout probably not until late May, to be honest, at the earliest. And that also depends as well on the readiness of the orbital launch mount, because if you don't have a pad to test it on, what's the point in really rolling it out anyway?
I agree.
And a question here from Mark asking, a hurricane, why no doors on buildings? So I assume you mean the high bay and the mid bay there. That's a solid question, actually, because the vehicle assembly building, NASA's vehicle assembly building on the East Coast at Kennedy Space Center, does have retractable doors. It's a very clean facility on the inside to have completely isolated operations with stacking and processing rockets, whereas the high bay and the mid bay are pretty open to the elements. Rain could come in if it hits at the right angle, but I don't think that's really much of an issue because Starship's so resilient, I guess. It's so simplistic. I don't know what they would do, honestly, if a hurricane comes in. I guess just strap it down to the ground, roll it inside the high bay, and hope for the best, honestly.
No, Ian, they would just fly it out of the hurricane's way.
Didn't do a 12-kilometer hop for the 48 hours.
Hop over the hurricane, land on a platform that's on the other side of the hurricane. It's like, miss me, and then the hurricane goes on in, and then you just fly back in when it's done. Jeez,
I can just imagine like how airports evacuate airplanes. You see like a fleet of Starships leave Boca Chica for Kennedy Space Center. Or when a hurricane comes at Kennedy Space Center, fly them to the west to Boca Chica.
To jump out of the way of the hurricane coming in. Nice.
Imagine just flying over the hurricane, just like, glad I'm not there.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, I didn't know this about the VAB at Kennedy Space Center, but they actually have, I don't know if they officially call them these, this is what they were called me, but blowout panels. So there are certain panels on the side of the VAB that are designed to fail before the rest of the VAB. So if you get a big pressure differential like a hurricane and the pressure drops all of a sudden, these blowout panels on the VAB are supposed to release the internal pressure so that the entire building equalizes and it doesn't have like big parts of the VAB falling off. So when you try to button something up, you have to worry about, with such a big space, the internal pressure of the building and the external pressure of outside. And they literally have, you can see some panels on there that are supposed to help equalize the pressure if there's a sudden change in pressure for the valve. So I don't know if they have the same sort of things, but when you have a big door like that where, you know, not a quarter of the building is open, but maybe a sixth of the building or a fifth of the building or something like that is open to the air, maybe you don't have to worry about that equalization.
Yeah, and honestly, I think if you build the panels strong enough and you have that opening where you have the pressure, double vent.
Yeah, and I'm going to wonder if this is the final depressurization or not.
That's what I'm wondering too. We'll have to see how long this goes.
Yeah, because normally it's like 40 minutes to an hour after the actual event. And that static fire happened at, what, 54, right? So we're just over an hour from the static fire. So maybe this is the final depress, perhaps.
Yep, and it's been a long vent so far, so I could see this being towards the end.
Yeah. And remember, it wasn't a fully fueled Starship. We didn't see ice go all the way up the sides. We saw some ice on the header tanks. We saw some condensation from the skirt. So we don't need the final depress to be like 5 minutes long or anything like that. It really looks like they didn't completely fill the thing up, right?
Yep. And they usually never do. I don't think they ever have fully filled a Starship for a static fire, because if something does, first off, you don't really need that full fuel. So you just be wasting a lot. But also, if something goes wrong, such as we saw with SN4, you would have a very bad day. And what SN4 did was on minimal load fuel tanks. There were puddles inside the fuel tanks with obviously the gas inside, but a fully fueled Starship would be catastrophic. And I would hate to see that happen.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, that was a pretty long vent there, so that is a good sign that we may be nearing the end, but we'll stick around a little bit longer, see what's going on. We can still see some venting from the tank farm and glow off the Starship, actually, as sunset comes in Boca Chica. That's actually, even though we're not even seeing the sunset itself, that's still a beautiful shot to me, the amber reflections.
Do you think we should call that the final depress there, Ian? What do you think?
I think so. What do you think?
I'll go ahead and update it, because that was a double depress at about the time that we think that we would call the final depress after the actual test event occurred.
Yep.
So I'll mark it as that. We'll see if cars start approaching the pad. I know Mary will be, if Mary sees anything, she'll let us know as well, but it may very well be that we are done with the testing today. And again, we usually stay live until the road reopens. Sometimes they have reasons that it doesn't reopen so quickly, but we're going to call that final depress and see if the pad and road reopen here shortly.
Yep, sounds good.
All right.
But all in all, for anyone just joining us or anyone who wants a bit of an update, it seemed like we did have a good static fire. It appeared good, but we don't have any official word on that yet. It seemed like all three Raptors ignited for what seemed to be a good duration burn. The vehicle was then the propellant was then loaded off the vehicle. We saw depressurization, and we saw what seemed to be a final depressurization there. So all in all, it looks like a very successful day for Starship SN15 during a static fire, which is one of the final steps on the road to its medium altitude flight coming in the next few days or the next few weeks.
I'm actually backing off another one of our cameras so we can see if cars start to drive up to Starship there. So
Sounds
now
good.
we have a view over here as well. And the sunset's going to be fantastic. Look at this. But here is our wider camera that has the entire road going there. So if we start to see cars go, I can sing that out. I'll keep an eye on this camera here.
Sounds good. And Mary's here saying that the deputy has gone from a checkpoint, but SpaceX security is still there. So that's another sign showing that they may be ramping down.
Excellent.
And it sounds like another event going there.
Yeah, maybe we should look at that, huh?
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, yep, and also I'm seeing some questions in chat relating to the Delta IV launch. Yes, there was a Delta IV launch earlier, about, I believe, about 2.5 hours ago, actually. We saw the Delta IV Heavy seem to be successfully launching from Vandenberg Air Force Base, carrying a classified payload known as NROL-82. We believe this is believed to be a KH-11 spy satellite. And we don't know anything other than it seemed to be a successful launch, and we're just that's pretty much all we're going to hear. But so the Delta IV Heavy was a few hours ago, and it did appear to go off well.
Yeah, did ULA ever confirm anything else, or would we expect them to confirm anything else on an NROL?
I think it happens a few, like 6 or so hours after liftoff.
Yeah, they got liftoff in there. They concluded the live coverage, but there hasn't been any official updates on their Twitter since they said they were concluding the live coverage. So,
and
at the request of their
ordinary.
customer. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
All right, good deal.
And going to do some questions here again. Theo asking, will they really skip Starships SN18 and SN19? And we haven't had any direct confirmation of that, but it seems extremely likely that they will, because we have not seen any more work, any more sections spotted for SN18 or 19. We've seen seemingly a hard cutoff at SN17, and now a large amount for SN8 or SN20, and I believe even SN22 someone spotted a section for. So I would assume SN18 and 19 are either scrapped or maybe being reused for the GSE tanks, but it seems extremely likely they're skipping 18 and 19 to go straight to 20 for the orbital capable vehicle.
Man, the beach camera needs a lens wipe off, it looks like. I'll have to call in the robot herders. I was trying to see if we couldn't see the sunset from the beach angle. It's not sunset time yet right now, but I was just looking that way, and we need to wipe this camera off, I think. You can see some of the little water splotches at the bottom where it looks like it got rained on or something too.
Yep.
So,
gotta have some wipers out there.
yeah, I'll keep looking that way. That's the production site all the way off in the distance across some of the salt estuaries there, but no, not quite sunset time yet. Just got that sun, I think, peeking through the clouds, so we're getting that really cool lighting on Starship.
Aha, that makes a lot more sense, because yeah, it is only 6 o'clock there, and sunset's around 8 o'clock or so.
Yeah. Absolutely. But the colors are really nice right now. Look at that. It's just that sort of deal.
Oh yeah, the clouds, the blue, the sun peeking through the clouds. All very cool. I hope to visit Boca Chica someday. It seems like a beautiful area.
Oh yeah, we'll get you out there. I'll need a battery carried to a robot a quarter mile away from the road or something. We'll get you out there at some point.
Hey, I'm good to do whatever you need me to do. And another question here, asked from Kyle, asking, how does Delta IV prevent liquid hydrogen boil-off? So it prevents it by having actually very thick insulation on the sides called spray-on foam insulation that gives it that orange color that you can see. And it's also very similar, if not identical, to the same foam used on the space shuttle and the space launch system to insulate the tanks and prevent boil-off. Since liquid hydrogen is extremely cold, it's almost double the amount under zero that liquid methane is. It's about 430 or negative 450 Fahrenheit, which is very cold Celsius.
Cold. Very cold Celsius, nice.
I'm American, I'm sorry. I try to use metric, but what can you do? But yeah, they do use insulation to deal with the fact that hydrogen is extremely cold, much colder than oxygen or methane. But on that note, I do believe that I need to head out.
Excellent.
So, thank you everyone for hosting me here. Thank you very much, Das, for handling everything in the background and for being our host today.
Hey, absolutely.
And
go ahead. I was going to say, Ian, thank you so much for joining us, but if you got something else to say it.
Oh, I'm all good, but thank you very much for having me here.
All right, folks, the voice that you're hearing there, that's Ian Atkinson, one of the writers, live stream commentators, host, Starship Venters apparently right now, it sounds like. But he was holding it down here with me throughout the rest of this test window. We were watching to see if they were doing anything else. Ian, thank you so much for joining us. If you want, you can follow Ian on Twitter. He's at Ian Pineapple, like it says in the upper right-hand corner of the screen there.
Yep.
All right, Ian, have a good evening. We'll catch you later, all right?
Yes, sir. See you, chat. Have a good night, everyone.
All right. So y'all, again, let's hop back in here and see how close this, well, now the venting seems to have stopped, but normally we are waiting until they open up the road, and it's just me. I'm the only one left on the stream. I don't have any information as to whether or not they're going to try another test. Of course, we continue to see all this venting. The only reason that we're still alive right now is because the road has not opened. But that's why I keep on looking at these wide shots to see if we can't observe some cars going back up to the test site, the launch site there. But I will continue to read the super chats and questions and stuff like that. Yeah, Das Solo. Poor Das. No, hey, yeah, that's okay. Nobody needs to say poor Das. I streamed I don't know how many thousands of hours completely by myself over on Twitch. I had no trouble continuing to talk for very long amounts of time. So some of y'all might get sick of me, and that's a certain thing that can happen. But let me keep on reading some super chats here. I'm just going to go ahead and clear out the queue if y'all will let me. Liam Ho says, do we know anything about other projects to support a Mars colony? Habitation, life support, farming, etc. We haven't heard a lot of that from Elon. And I would go all the way back to something that Elon said where he sort of wants to set up the transportation and then would rely on other companies or organizations to figure out, you know, here, we're designing a Mars hab. Or here, we're going to figure out how to make an oxygen recycler or whatever, all the different things you might need. So Elon in the Starship system sort of acting like the train system, right? They'll deliver the cargo out there, they'll put it down on the front door, and then you have to build the rest of it. I'm interested to see if that's how that shakes out. If some of the payload claims and the cost per payload really work out for Starship all the way out to Mars, you could certainly see companies start to put some stuff down because it'll open up some opportunity. But I have a feeling before we really see a Mars colony start, we're going to see like an Earth system, like around the Earth and Moon, cislunar space it's called sometimes. I think we're going to see that built out a lot if Starship is enabling us to get hundreds of tons into orbit for cheaply. We'll start to see things like orbital factories and stuff like that here around Earth before we really see infrastructure built out at Mars. Is my own, rampant speculation, personal opinion there. Justin Smith, what do you think about progression from Hopper to SN20? It seems like it's gone super fast. I was out there just a couple years ago when Boca Chica was literally just a tent and hopper. And to go all the way up to this point where they have all this infrastructure and the OLP being built and that sort of stuff, it's a lot of stuff that's happened really quickly. So I certainly hope that we can see one of these things land, and I certainly hope we can get one of them into orbit. And then back from orbit, too, because that would be cool. Let's see. Holly with the $3. We appreciate the support there. Or I should say I appreciate the support. There's no we about it. It's just me now. I appreciate the support, Holly. Thank you so much for the $3. Let's see here. Edison Light Globes from Australia, or at least paying with Australian dollars, saying, so our sea level Raptors on Starship only used to land on Earth, given it in truth a second stage. I don't know that we've heard exactly how they're going to operate. Like, if they light those on separation from the booster, are you going to expect to see all 6 engines come online? Are you just going to expect to see the vacuum-rated, the more efficient Raptors come online? I have a feeling all of those engines are going to light. Oh, hey, more venting noises. Nice. And we're going to see all 6 engines be used for getting to orbit. You get to the point where you have to sort of efficientize things, like tune things in for efficiency. And when Starship separates from the top of the booster, it's got a full load of fuel and it's got a full load of whatever payload it's carrying. So you may need the extra oomph of all 6 of those engines, 3 sea level Raptors, 3 vacuum Raptors on the bottom of a Starship, right? You may need that extra oomph. And then once you get into space, you might get yourself into a situation where you don't need that much acceleration, and you could do potentially a translunar injection burn just using the vacuum Raptors, right? You don't need the acceleration because you're already in orbit. It all depends on, do they have to have the sea level Raptors thrust vectoring capabilities for control during orbital burns? So you're going to the moon, you're going to Mars, do you need to get that extra engine on? Or does it make more sense to control with the thrusters that we saw the test on earlier, and then actually just burn the vacuum Raptors up there? I think we'll see on that. I don't know that we've seen any exact estimation of what's going to happen, but when they start flying these things, I have a feeling SpaceX will put a camera up the skirt of this thing, and we'll be able to see exactly how many engines turn on when it separates and goes on its way to orbit. So Let's see here. Here's another one. I want to will my assets donate to a fund or whatever, if it's SpaceX or whoever, but primarily chose a Mars colony effort since I can't go myself. Maybe sponsoring a colonist. That's an interesting idea. More Connie, sponsoring a future colonist. I mean, you can sponsor like exchange students. Could you, if Starship tickets are cheap enough, could you actually sponsor a student to go to Mars or the moon or cislunar space or a space station or something like that because it's cheap enough to send them there on a Starship? That is an interesting concept. That is a very interesting concept. Thank you for the $10 there. Let's see. Here's another one about the Raptors. Is there a reason of all the lunar Starship renders have 6 Raptors in it or on it? Since it won't land on the Earth side, should only require vacuum engines. So again, I was talking a little bit about there, with a full payload launching from the surface of Earth, they may need that extra oomph of those sea level Raptors and the thrust vectoring control while still flying through the upper atmosphere after it disconnects from the booster, right? They may need that. And then once they get into a stable low Earth orbit, they may be able to just do the rest of the burns on vacuum Raptors, no thrust gimbal, thrust vectoring, and the thrusters to maintain attitude control. We'll see. I don't know the answer. We can certainly talk about all the different options they have, but I'm guessing they may need the oomph for those 6 engines so they don't fall out of orbit. If you don't have enough acceleration, it doesn't matter how efficient your engines are. You got to get into orbit. You got to attain orbital velocity before you fall back down, right? And that's why sometimes you need that extra oomph to get the rest of the way into orbit. Let's see here. How are the astronauts, Kevin Martin, that land on the moon with the Starship getting home later? So the notional plan, the current work in progress plan, is that they are going to send a Starship up, up to orbit. They're going to refill that Starship. They're going to send that Starship with just payload, no humans, but just payload, out to lunar orbit, and then they're going to send the Orion capsule out to rendezvous with Starship in lunar orbit. Starships, or the Starships would board the Starships. No, the astronauts would board the Starship would go down. It's like the lunar elevator at this point. It goes down, you land on the moon, it takes off again, and then you end up back in the lunar orbit where you would meet with Orion again. You'd board the Orion, and then Orion would bring you back home capsule style. That's the current plan. Could it go differently? I don't know. I could certainly see a situation in which Crew Dragon is used to load astronauts onto a lunar Starship in low Earth orbit, and you just do the whole trip in the lunar Starship. How does that affect the payloads and the up and down mass from the moon and that sort of thing? I don't know the math exactly, but I could see Crew Dragon being used for that. So we'll see. Let's see here. Doc Rocks, hover, grabs nose tether, lands, cage test stress. Oh, you're talking about the caged nose cone there? Like, what are they going to do with that caged nose cone? I think one day we may wake up and that nose cone's going to be like crumpled inside of that test rig or something. It doesn't look like a hugely beefy test rig, and I'm not sure what tests they're going to do with it, but why do you need the rig on the outside of it like that? Like, what are you going to test? You have to have some mechanical stresses you're going to put on it if you need an external like exoskeleton on the nose cone. At this point, it's literally just DOS answers questions while Starship vents. Jeez. I'm gonna keep on reading questions here as well. Oh. So interestingly, Mary is telling me that the deputy is still back over at the checkpoint right now. We were talking about the road opening, and then, the deputy had gone away from the checkpoint, and we thought, oh, the deputy's just leaving. Apparently the deputy had some other stuff to do and has come back to the checkpoint. So Starship continues to vent, and the deputy continues to close the road, and we're an hour and a half since the test has occurred, which is interesting to me. I don't know if SpaceX is testing some other things with SN15 here. Are these maintenance events where they're sort of maintaining an internal pressure? It wasn't venting for a long time, but now we're getting these infrequent sort of vents. I call them maintenance vents, where it's like, the kettle's boiling, you got to let off some pressure, you put some more tea in it. I guess you don't put tea in a kettle, you put water in a kettle, but whatever. And then you let off some more pressure because it boils off. I don't know. Jeez. It's so easy when I can just be like, well, what do you think, Thomas or Michael or Jack or somebody else? But it's just me right now. Let's see here. Mark says, Das, of course you mean crude streams, not curated streams. Crude streams, I like that. But not like crude streams like, you know, it's a really poorly made piece of pottery or something that has lumps and bumps and isn't fired correctly. You mean like human beings here to take care of the stream. I like it. Let's see here. Rockwell Tory with a question. Based on closures in TFR, Wednesday or Thursday test flight, I'm going off memory on this one. I believe... I don't actually know what TFRs had been put in place. I'd have to stop talking for a minute and go look that up, because I hadn't seen the most recent TFRs today. I can certainly cheat and check the road closures. Oh! Mary to the rescue. Mary has apparently gotten, and I'm reading, an alert notice for another test tomorrow. So this is the typical alert notice, potential risk to health and safety. Let me see if I can't get this on the screen for y'all real quick. But it looks like this is a normal static fire notice. And I should probably ask Mary if it's okay to show that real quick. So let me do that real quick. You show. There you go. But it looks like Mary's gotten an alert notice for tomorrow. Okay, good deal. Let's get that up real quick, because that may be relevant to this question that we're answering right now. There's that. Click this button, go over there, click that, come back over to this computer, log into this server. Look, all I can do is just talk out loud what I'm doing, what I normally do when other people are clicking things. So let me see if I can't get this really quick here. And bring that up. And there is the alert notice for tomorrow. This is the typical static fire alert notice where it warns about the siren 10 minutes prior to the activity. This is where we get the siren thing from, right? 10 minutes prior to the activity. You'll be provided notice by the sounding of a police siren. Honestly, they've been a little... they haven't really been lavishing us with loud police sirens lately. We didn't even hear one today. Mary said she could barely hear it and she was there. But this is the notice saying that tomorrow, April 27th, today's the 26th, right? Yep. From noon until 8 p.m., this looks like a static fire style test. I don't see anything else. It's just telling people, hey, in case something goes wrong, and they call it an overpressure event, right? It's right here, overpressure event. In case there's an overpressure event, we think that you should get out of your house so that if you're hanging on your couch watching TV, the overpressure event doesn't shower you with glass on the back of your head. So that's what this notice is, telling us about a potential for a static fire tomorrow, or some other test that would potentially cause an overpressure that you don't want to be near broken glass on. So Mary, again, to the rescue. I told you, I am not kidding when I say if you want the hottest, freshest, artisanal Boca Chica updates straight from the person who lives there at Boca Chica, you need to make sure you follow Mary at Boca Chica Gal. She is out there every single day with the daily videos, the tweets, the updates, the sunrises and sunsets, and the venting in the background that we can still hear. There you go. Still got those venting going. But for real, you need to make sure you follow Mary if you are at all interested in keeping up with what's going on with Starship. Her name starts with an M, and it should appear on the screen like that. Excellent. So follow her over on Twitter at Boca Chica Gal. One of the mods, if you could. Yeah, there you go. Steve, thank you so much. Didn't even have to ask. It was already in chat. Click that link right there to follow Mary on Twitter, y'all. And Patrick as well. Appreciate the mods there. And I bet you. Excellent. I'm going to keep on reading some stuff here. Seeing if I've missed anything else. I know that there are still some more chats for me to get through. Let's see here. PebMets. There we go. Great work. All right, here we go. Back in the saddle. Great work. One favor. Please do not call the vehicle assembly VAB anymore. It's always been the VAB. Plus, it sounds better than VAB. So that's a Kerbal thing, PebMets. When I started playing Kerbal, it was always the VAB. And I'm aware that the cool kids at NASA Kennedy Space Center do not call it the VAB. But I call it the VAB. Because I started calling it the VAB in Kerbal when I was not hanging out with the cool kids at Kennedy Space Center, and so VAB just stuck in my head. And I know that if I'm talking to somebody down there, they call it the VAB, but I don't know if you can change me. I'm sorry. Appreciate the $20 there. I'll do the best that I can. It gives us a good thing to talk about, right? Oh yeah, the story, they actually call it the VAB out at the KSC when they're... Anyways, you get the point. Appreciate the support too. There, continue going through some. Jerwa says, unsupervised DOS, bird excitement incoming. You know something, Jerwa? The bluebirds did not make a nest in the box the beginning of spring this year. I don't know if it was interference from other birds in the area. They were sort of fighting some little chickadee-looking things for possession of the box. And I don't know, nobody built a nest in there. I don't know if it was because, you know, neither bird wanted to have to fight for it, so they both just gave up, or they found a better option somewhere else, or I don't know. There's a set of solar panels out there that are doing some testing for a robot rig. I don't know if the solar panel has scared the bluebirds off. So I have a bluebird cam right now. It just doesn't have any bluebirds on it. It's an empty nest box in the backyard. So anyways, boo-hoo. Maybe they'll come in later in the spring, like the second nesting or something. We'll have to see. I think we're going to start getting some cool views from here, too. We'll keep watching the road as well. I know. I was actually super sad. I hope those solar panels didn't scare those birds off. Multi-Space Industry says, in German accent, Das Fem Club. I don't exactly know how to say that with a German accent, but I'll take the $2. Thank you to Multi-Space Industries. Appreciate you. Kyle Trick also says Das Fan Club. Thanks, Kyle Trick, for the $1.99 there. Sam Halter. Hey, Sam, how you doing today? Hope you're doing well. Are the GSE tanks insulated? Thanks again for the great coverage. So I believe that we think that they are going to insulate the GSE tanks somehow. Is that inside of the existing tanks, or is that going to be like a sleeve or something they put on the outside? I don't think we know, but I think the best guess on that was that some sort of insulation was expected. I've seen some guesses on Twitter as to the way that they may be insulating those tanks, but certainly down there, especially in the summer, it's going to be difficult to keep cryogenic propellant in tanks, especially for longer term storage that are just stainless steel, no air gap or vacuum gap or insulation or anything like that to keep that hot South Texas sun off of it. So I think that we expect them to insulate them somehow. I cannot authoritatively tell you how that would occur. If you are just joining us, folks, I am still holding it down here. John Galloway, or DOS, I go by a lot of the times, for the NASA spaceflight stream. Everybody else is out, and we saw a static fire, looked like a good static fire earlier, and we're waiting for the road to be opened. We think that there may be another test tomorrow. We just saw that alert notice from Mary. But for today, interestingly, Starship keeps venting, and we have not seen them actually open the road yet. So we're continuing to watch what's going on. DOS. Not like dos, not like two in Spanish. DOS. Don't ask. Stuck with it. Can't change it now. But Sam, I do believe that they're going to try to do some sort of insulation, but I do not know exactly how that's going to happen. All right, there we go. Providing some information for the video edit in the background as well. So let's see here. Wow. Well, apparently, the next super chat in the queue from Vendis Nye is not only from the Great White North, Canada, it's also for 100 Canadian dollars. Since I'm the only one on, do I get to keep that? Like, just me? So we get to spend that on robots is what we need to do. Vendis, thank you so much. That was like almost 10 minutes ago, and I've just been going down the queue there. Thank you so much for the 100 Canadian dollars. We will definitely use that to continue to improve our ability to share these experiences with you. These events, is that lame, y'all? Like, do you think that it's lame for me to say, oh, share that experience with you? I mean, I don't know of a better way to say it. So, anyways, that's how I always sort of explain what we're doing and what we're trying to share. It's not like, oh, make this broadcast better or whatever. You know what I mean? So, Thendis, thank you so much for the 100 Canadians. I really appreciate the 100 Canadians. Well, that too. Elon will need those for his Mars colonization efforts, 100 Canadians. But the 100 Canadian dollars I can spend now on robots. I do appreciate the support there. Thank you so much for your generosity. Mike Poole, $7. Hey, it all adds up. Thanks for the $7 well. And then also, Vinny Pinzone. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I hope I didn't just curse in Italian or something. But it says, keep up the monologue. Any chance the test rig is to be used to test orbital refueling and flipped upside down? That's an interesting idea. I mean, that is a really interesting idea. I don't know, what would you do? You would use a crane to flip that rig over, and then you would use another crane to pick a Starship up directly above it? If the nose cone didn't stick out of the top, like, well, you got the test stand there where the Raptors fire through, so maybe it doesn't matter that the nose cone sticks through the top. I hadn't heard anybody ask that yet. Where would they flip that nose cone upside down? I would probably look at that rig and see if there's attach points around the middle of it. You see this whenever they flip the bulkheads over in the tent yard by the onion tents. They flip over those the thrust pucks and stuff like that, and they'll build them one way, and then they'll hook up this jig, and the jig actually attaches sort of to the center of mass of the dome, and then they flip the dome over with this sort of rotating rig. Now, I don't see anything like that on the nose cone test jig here, right? I don't see attach points. Could that bottom sort of where the cross braces come together, could that be the center of mass of the nose cone rig? And is there some attach point there perhaps? Why does it stick off further at the top up above that if they need to have straps that go down and attach to something below it? From looking at this, I don't get the impression that that rig is supposed to be flipped over. I don't know. Maybe I need to look at some more zoomed in shots, but just from what I've looked at it, I don't think that I see the proper... Who knows? Maybe they'll bring another Y adapter over here and make it work, you know? In any event, I am not sure. It seems like it might be tough to A, flip that thing over, and then B, have something else that's also stacked up above it, like you pick the Starship up with a taller crane and you put it on the nose cone that's upside down. Well, wait, no, but that doesn't make any sense anyways, because it should be the aft skirt. It shouldn't be the nose cone if you're going to test orbital refueling. If you were testing two Starships docking nose to nose, then you could use the nose of this, but you're missing the skirt, which is the part of the Starship. Anyways, everything that I just said is out the window because that's the wrong part of Starship for tail-to-tail refueling. You know what I mean? So, anyways, I think it'll be very interesting to see what will happen with this test rig and figure out why it needs external structure. Why do they have to put an exoskeleton on this nose cone for whatever testing they're doing? It'll be interesting to see what happens. Yes, or it could just be a nose cone jail. Thank you, Karma. Appreciate you. Johnny Spacer, I agree. I mean, I do believe that it's a stress test rig because you've seen things like this in other testing regimes for other types of vehicles. But it's fun to think about. You know what I mean? It's always fun to think about what's going on with the rig. So All right. I mean, it's still venting. Starship is still doing something. Welcome to the musings of DOS. This Starship, this stream is currently just me talking. Exactly. Push the launch button. There is no launch scheduled today, and I have a launch button here, but when I push it, Starship doesn't do anything. So I don't know that my launch button is really going to help anything with this. Sorry. Is this the first time DOS has been a load for one of these streams? Cyber the Chef. Hang on, let me go to my Twitch channel real quick. Hang on. I got a trick I want to do real quick. I am going to bring up how many hours I streamed on Twitch, the vast majority of which I was by myself doing said streaming on Twitch. Like, single host, the only person with the microphone talking to people for long periods of time. And that road at some points. But let's have a look here on Twitch. If I do credits, 6,601 hours. My Twitch bot has recorded me streaming on Twitch, and the vast majority of those are me playing Kerbal Space Program for 8 to 10 hours a day for like 4 years straight. Also, I have 1 billion channel points as well, so I've done an awful lot of talking where it's just me talking. So I am no stranger to holding it down myself. Well, I could just answer Thomas out loud. Yes, we are still live, Thomas. The road is not opened yet, and Starship keeps venting. Someone. I think they think I'm crazy because we're still live right now. I mean, it is a bit of good information that Mary got that notice. So why would they need to do, say that they were going to try for another static fire today, why would they also put out the notice for another static fire tomorrow? Right? I don't know what the answer to that is. But until the road opens, we're still sort of holding it down here. Oh, you just came over from YouTube. Nice, Nintendo. Excellent. We're just staying there till sunset. Yeah. There's somebody did the math. It's 275 days of 24/7 streaming. It's 9 straight months. This is how I paid the bills before I got involved with NASASpaceflight. It started to do the actual rocket launch coverage. The reason my name in Twitch or in YouTube chat is K Space Academy is because my show was the Kerbal Space Academy, and I would play Kerbal for 6 to 8 hours a day, just like anybody else going to a job, sitting at the desk for 8 hours. I'd sit on the computer and I would stream Kerbal for 6 to 8 hours a day. I've done a lot of stuff in Kerbal Space Program. Used to do the VFTs. I'm reading some Twitch chat right now. So we used to do these virtual field trips. I streamed from like the beaches of Normandy on the anniversary of D-Day. We had like IRL camera rigs and these tracking cameras for parachute drops and stuff like that. I built out all that streaming infrastructure. So we did a live stream riding the Jeep down the beach. So I've done a lot of different types of streaming stuff. Back in the day, I used to just have a laptop that I strapped to a tripod, and I would plug a camera with a capture card into the laptop, and then we'd do like a little launch coverage or whatever. So I have no trouble hanging out with y'all here. Just me. Not a problem for me to keep hanging out until we get clear indication that this testing is done for today. Go check for cars. Anybody see any cars? I mean, there's a semi-truck, but that one doesn't count. Nothing's going out there yet. Australia appreciates your solo coverage. Thanks, mate. I can't say it correctly, but in any event, appreciate you. That D-Day footage is all on my, it's on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/DosValdez, and it's also on my YouTube, which is just K-Space Academy. I don't know if there's a way, like here. Whoop. Like that. That's my name, K-Space Academy there. I don't know if that gets you to my channel, but there should be a collection over there that has all the D-Day live streams and stuff. And then there's the Twitch link as well. Yes. Yeah, I'm going to farm followers on my own channels because no one else is here to stop me.
What was that, Dos?
What? What? No, hang on. Sorry. So anyways, no one else is here to stop me. I just muted whoever that was, and I'm going to continue talking because I'm in charge here. I'm the captain now, whoever you are. I've actually been the captain since we started streaming however many hours ago. How's it going, Thomas?
How's it going, Dos?
Dude, I don't need you to rescue me. I'm fine.
I know you didn't need me, but I figured I'd offer the assistance.
I'm here in my little tower. I don't need a knight to come and rescue me. I'm holding it down. My hair's growing longer or whatever, but it's fine.
What even is going on? The road is open. Starship's still venting. What's going on?
So the road's not open yet. The deputy actually left the checkpoint, went over and delivered notices for tomorrow, and then came back to the checkpoint. In Starship,
without opening the checkpoint.
Without opening the checkpoint, and we haven't seen any cars go to the pad. And Starship keeps venting like this. It hasn't stopped venting. So, what's going on? There's still an hour and 15 minutes in the test window.
There's no like recondenser activity or anything, which is interesting.
Yeah,
so if they were going to recycle and do another, like we were talking about, maybe they want to do a header tank something because we saw the header tank fuel or whatever. But there's no signs that they're fueling again, like they did a full recycle. It's just Starship is still venting.
Yes, it is. So I'm just hanging out.
And like with a normal recycle, venting would have been done by now. Like detanking would have been done by now, right?
We marked, there was a big prolonged double depress that happened about an hour and 10 minutes after the static fire occurred. And so I marked final depress on there. But normally after that, we would expect the road to open and crews to go back to the pad, and then we'd see people checking things out. But that hasn't happened here yet, so that's why I'm still hanging out.
Gotcha.
A gator taco? What is this, a gator taco at Rusty's? Thanks, Sam. I may have to take you up on that. I never had a gator taco. We could use Fleet Cam to stream me trying to eat a gator taco on the deck at Rusty's. Does that sound like a plan?
We should do that, totally.
At some point, Thomas, we are going to have like a meetup underneath Fleet Cam, and we'll
go. Oh, and it's going to be shown live on Fleet Cam, of course.
Yeah, we'll have a Fleet Cam preset. When we first installed Fleet Cam, there was a preset that would actually look down at a table, and we called it the NSF table, but we never got a chance to use it. So we'll have to do that at some point. Yes. Was presumed successful still? Jonas, I mean, it looked like a good static fire. There wasn't molten launch pad flying through the air, and we didn't see Raptors fall out the bottom of Starship, and it didn't explode. It's still there. So from everything we can see, the sounds and sights of the static fire, it looked like it was okay.
Yeah, it seemed like a normal duration and stuff like that, so no signs that it was not nominal.
Exactly. But no official word from SpaceX. Sometimes Elon will tweet, like, oh, it looks good, we're good to go for tomorrow or something, but that would be an Elon tweet, and we never get an official word from SpaceX, like the actual SpaceX account saying Starship conducted a nominal static fire or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah, you could tell there's no RCS tests being done right now because the RCS thrusters aren't firing. That's my clue. Have you seen any RCS testing? Something happened like an hour ago, a good while ago, maybe 45 minutes. I didn't write down the time. 30 minutes ago. Let's see here. Thomas, you're in engineering school, aren't you?
Oh gosh, this ought to be good. Go ahead, Daz.
Well, no, I mean, we've talked about this quite a bit, but here's a super chat from Travis saying the tank prison, is it a drop test rig to test survivability of the top portion if the craft lands hard and the bottom is destroyed? You think they're going to drop that test rig with the Starship inside, or the nose cone inside? I think they just dropped the nose cone then, right? They wouldn't have a rig around it.
Yeah, the rig, yeah, I don't know. I don't see it as a drop test thing. What I'm imagining, based on what we've seen, is that cap on the top of the nose cone will undergo some sort of force from the inside. Some sort of tension pulls it down, and that'll simulate some force on the top of the nose cone. That could be any number of things. It could be pressurization forces. It could be like aerodynamic forces, which would be a little weird because air forces would be distributed across the entire nose cone, not just on the tip. But maybe it'll be an approximation, and you can still get good data out of it. I don't see a drop test rig. I see more of just some general structural loading test of some kind.
Yeah, I can do this for you real quick because with that venting view that we have does get us a little bit more detail on that attach point up at the top. Let me see what that looks like. What is that? Vent. Straighten it up. So we are able to see a little bit here like this, Thomas.
I'm not sure how useful a drop test rig like that would be anyway. If the bottom of the Starship is destroyed, whatever was on top is also getting destroyed. There's an explosion involved there.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about like crumple zone things, because the bottom section is a tank section with propellant in it.
It's like a, it looks like a landing summoning circle at the top of it. Maybe they're trying to teleport a Starship to a successful landing.
Yeah, it's hard to see from the, I bet if we saw the inside of the nose cone, it would all make a lot of sense, but from the outside there's only so much we can figure out. I would just guess some sort of structural testing, forces on the nose cone.
There you go, Thomas. There goes a car.
Team's finally returning to the pad, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like the single, is that the security Tesla?
It might be.
The single low-slung white car that's going out there.
No one else following it, though.
Yeah, we'll watch from here and see if anybody follows that single car. Odd that just the security car would go back out there, right? Oh, there you go. Got a truck going, too. All right. Well, I do believe that what I've been saying this entire time is that when the road opens, that is when we are going to spool down the stream here, I believe. Right, Thomas?
I mean, yeah, when there's... That's a sure sign the testing is done for now, and they only have about an hour left in the window. Seeing that there's multiple cars going out, I guess there's only 2 cars going now.
Yeah.
Since they just opened that checkpoint, I would imagine I'm assuming those are SpaceX personnel, they should be opening the road to the public shortly. If they don't do that, then it's possible they're doing something quickly and get a squeeze in something in the last hour, but...
Yeah.
That would be the big thing, is as soon as they open the road to the public, that's a sign that we're done.
Yeah, exactly. But right now it's not open to the public, it doesn't look like. It's only 2 SpaceX vehicles headed out there. So maybe they've got something that they're supposed to be doing. Checking something or banging on a valve with a wrench to make sure that it's safe. I don't know.
Yeah.
And again, y'all, we are aware Mary got that notice for tomorrow, the noon until 8 p.m. window tomorrow for another overpressure event test, which usually means a static fire. So it may very well be that they are going for another static fire tomorrow. There's a 3rd vehicle now. 4th.
Yeah, more vehicles heading out.
4 shall be the number of cars counted.
Yeah. The road closures, there's one for tomorrow and there's one for Wednesday. I believe the first flight restriction is Wednesday.
Okay.
So they have time tomorrow for any additional ground testing they need to do, like if they want some sort of header tank test or something, or if something was off nominal about the main test today and they want to redo it. They have an opportunity tomorrow, but again, no signs that today's static fire wasn't nominal.
Yeah, and more cars going. That's like up to 6, 7 now, it looks like, so... Still may just be SpaceX personnel, but I think a lot of the times they have to remove the roadblock, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be a line of cars with fishing poles out the back of them ready to go to the beach, you know? Huh. Could you grab a couple of those super chats real quick, Thomas?
Yeah, sure. Jink with the super chat. Maybe it'll be the header tank and nose test rig tomorrow, especially if they're going to fill the tanks to apply structural pressure on the nose. It's possible that that testing could require some sort of road closure. If they're just doing like a force test, like literally pulling down on that cap on the top, they're not pressurizing anything or loading propellant or anything. They might not even need to close the road to do that. But if that nose cone is getting pressurized or anything like that, at least significantly pressurized, that may warrant overhead closure. It could also be additional testing on SN15 itself. So those are all options, and the only way to find out really will be to wait and see. Charles asking, how many starships do you think we'll need to land on Mars with equipment before we ever think about sending humans? It's a good question. You'll want to set things such as your fuel production equipment to refuel a Starship. That'll be something to include in pre-human missions to Mars. You're going to want habitat equipment. You might be able to live out a Starship for a little bit, but for a long duration mission like you need to do on Mars, you might want to have the materials to build a more permanent habitat once you get there. You also want to just prove that the landing system works, which will partially happen here on Earth, but also you'll want to demonstrate that you can land on Mars. So I'd say, a handful of Starships at least, as far as placing cargo and proving that landing works on Mars. I don't want to give an exact number, I guess, but a handful at least.
Yeah. Lots of different options there, like ways you could put together missions like that. So. Yeah. And you can see, I switched over to the beach view because you can see more and more vehicles stacking up over there. So.
And Brian saying, if you had to guess, I'd say the prolonged slow depress is part of pressure testing. They could have been doing some extra testing, and that's why it took so long to open the pad. That's certainly a possibility.
Yeah. Again, it's one of the reasons this is a little frustrating and also a little cool. Like, we don't get an exact notification from SpaceX, so it makes it more of a hangout sort of thing, or we don't know exactly what's going to happen. We're just going to hang out and tell y'all what we think is going on based on a lot of hours of watching tanks.
Yeah,
so,
Texas tank watching experience.
It's true.
I don't know, I feel like these days it's a lot easier. We used to have, hours upon hours of watching a tank not get frosty, which we haven't had to do in a while. Luckily, that the testing campaigns have gone a little better recently.
We need a T-shirt in the store that says, like, back in my day, we watched for the flare stack or something like that.
Yeah. People don't know what the heck's a flare stack,
Yeah, exactly.
Post flare stack days. Comment in chat if you were here for the flare stack days of Boca Chica.
Anybody know what a flare stack is and what we used to watch for? Only 2020 kids know. I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. But
it wasn't that long ago, yeah. And I think that actually cleared out the whole super chat queue there. Oh, look at all the people. Flare stack watcher, hashtag flare fact. I was there for flare stack. Flare who? Certified flare stacker. Nice. Yeah, that flare stack was serious business sometimes. That massive flame like lighting everything up when it did those big burn-offs. The flare stack went away when so there's still something that looks like a flare stack. We call it a vent stack now because they never set it on fire.
Yeah, but the flare stack does still exist.
Yeah, it does still exist out there.
It's actually interesting, when we were out at 39A for Crew 2, we keep getting reminded that there's a flare stack at 39A too. Hasn't been used in a while, but back when there were hydrogen-fueled stages on 39A, when the Space Shuttle and Saturn V, you needed a flare stack. And it's still there. It's pretty cool.
Isn't it visible in this picture? It's above the palm tree on the lower right-hand corner. I'm pretty sure that's the flare stack.
That might be, yeah.
I don't think the close-in camera can actually see that in frame. No, the close-in camera can't see that, unfortunately. Huh.
Having not been to Boca Chica myself, I'm still not fully up on the knowledge of where everything is relative to everything else, but I think you may be right.
Yep. So, I don't know what we want to do here, Thomas. I mean, there's like 20 cars out at the pad now. I don't know if the road is officially... Mary actually went back in. Mary shut down her gear, so she's not near the roadblock anymore. She went back to get all of her footage uploaded so that we can make a cool recap video of all of the different angles that we had of this event today. But... the test rig was built to just drive us crazy. Yeah. The purpose of the nose cone jail is to just make us wonder and talk about it all the time.
Yeah, I think all signs are kind of pointing to being done for the day. Just with so many people back at the pad and they only an hour left in the window.
Yeah.
Unless some sort of window extension comes into play, or something spools up. I mean, can always spool up a new stream. I don't know, but
Like suddenly.
Right now we know. Here's what we know: nothing will be happening right now. There's personnel out at the pad, so we know they can't be testing at this moment. They would have to re-clear the pad to do any additional testing today. So
Yeah, I agree with that. And we, you know, you watch the movie, and then the movie's over, and the credits roll, and you wait around to the end of the credits to see if there's anything. And we got that already. We had the RCS testing, and we saw them go through multiple cycles of the thruster firings there. So I feel like now they're sweeping up the theater, and there's popcorn on the floor, and we're still sitting here waiting. But they've already rolled the after credits stuff. So I have a feeling it may be time to completely shut. There's a bunch of people in chat saying the sheriff is gone, and the road is open now.
Yeah.
So
I
it may very
believe
well
that-
be.
Yeah. Looks like they're done for the day. We'll have to stay tuned to see if they're going to do more testing tomorrow, whether with SN15, with the nose cone structure thing, or if they'll just not need to test tomorrow and get ready for a flight test no earlier than Wednesday. We'll stay tuned with all of that. But of course, we'll go live again if there are more testing to show. But for today, I think it's definitely clear now that we are done. Looks like a successful static fire test of SN15. Pending a confirmation based on how they adjust their closures going forward, but a good day of testing, and we'll see what their plans shake out to be for the rest of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. And y'all, you know the drill. If there's something going on, we will certainly cover it here. We'll be watching that window tomorrow, and if we start to get some tank farm activity or we get signs of anything specific happening, guarantee you follow the channel here, and to make sure you turn on notifications, follow the main account over on Twitter at NASASpaceflight. And if there's something to see out at Boca Chica, we will make sure that it's covered here on the channel. Really quickly, we actually almost completely forgot about Fleet Cam, but they still have not lifted that booster off of the deck on Fleet Cam over there. It looks like they're actually working on potentially folding up the legs on the drone ship here. So
yeah, supporting it with Octograbber. Yep.
Yep. We are going to go ahead and shut down this live stream from Boca Chica, but if you want to keep hanging out, you can always mosey over to our Fleet Cam. That's our 24/7 camera that runs across from the SpaceX area at Port Canaveral, courtesy of Rusty's Seafood and Oyster Bar. And that camera is live 24/7 until it freezes, and then it goes back live when I wake up. So if you want, let me get a link to that, and I'll put that into chat. But for this evening, I do believe that is going to wrap up our live coverage from Boca Chica of the static fire test for SN15 as SpaceX tries to get it ready for that flight. Hopefully, oh, there we go. Steve and Patrick got some. Heck, I got it too. So there are some links to Fleet Cam. If you want to go and watch what they're doing with that Falcon booster at the port, you're welcome to mosey on over that way and keep watching. That stream stays live 24/7. So I don't know, Thomas, did I miss anything?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, folks, here shutting down the stream, we've got Thomas Burkhart. Thomas, thanks for joining in at the end of the stream there and helping
Yeah,
me,
sure.
helping me close it down. I appreciate the company.
No problem. Always happy to.
Your name starts with a T. There it is. All right. And then also we'll go back to Starship as well. So there's Thomas Burkhart, editor, writer, extraordinaire, etc., live stream host, camera operator, rocket tracker. Thomas, thank you so much for everything you do to make all these things possible. And then also back here at the NASA Spaceflight live stream control, my name is John Galloway. If you're watching over on Twitch, you may know me as DOS. At some point, we're going to have to not do that double introduction thing. Wait, am I under D or I am under J? There we go. I'm under J for John. Okay, cool. But John Galloway with NASA Spaceflight here saying thank y'all so much for joining us this evening for that static fire. Always a good time. Thanks for all the support, the people doing chats and asking cool questions and retweeting things on Twitter. Michael and Jack getting those cool shots of NROL-80, whatever it was. And just however you are a member of this spaceflight community, people that are following this, whether you're an aerospace engineer or you're just somebody who likes to see rockets or listen to us talk, we appreciate y'all showing up and making all these things possible. If you want, like I said, head on over to Fleet Cam. But for now, we'll go ahead and we'll see you nerds later. Thanks as always for all the support, y'all.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
The chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantic. Water towers fly! Flight outside FD off. FD off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.